Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to another episode of Endurance Chat. My name is Michael Zalavari, and we are back for season 2023. That's right, we're now up to 8 seasons of this thing. It's been a crazy ride, and we're still on it once again. And joining me, of course, for the first podcast of the year, I have with me Kris Washer 97. Hello, Kris, welcome back.
Oh, it feels so good to be back, and we're recording this, today's Tuesday, we get the War this upcoming weekend. Oh, it's going to be so great, and plus we got racing action on top of that, which we'll cover later.
Absolutely, and it's cool to have, for the first time on the podcast, someone brand new to us, Mr. Josh Cronin. You might know him better as JebTheRebel in the Discord. Good morning, well, for you, good evening, Jeb.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a big honor to be on the prestigious Endurance Chat podcast. I love how I sound like I'm reading off a script from, like, you know, when they get, what is it? Like, they get, like, a sponsor from IMSA to be in the booth, and they're just like, oh, you know, I'm so glad to be here at the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, Minnesota Raceway Road Atlanta for the Petit Le Mans season-ending endurance race. It's like, you've clearly never seen a race from this series in your life. Don't pretend. But I have, in fact, listened to an Endurance Chat podcast before. So, hello, yes, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Just for those who haven't been in the Discord for a while or not sure of, don't recognize your name, just give us a brief TLDR on who you are, what you do, and why we care.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a lurker in the community, so you guys don't be familiar. But hi, I'm Josh Cronin. No, let's be honest, I'm not a lurker. I'm one of the mods in the Discord, former Discord user of the year. Which is framed on my wall in a gold frame. No, it's not. No, but I am active in the community. Just one of the moderators. I like to think that I'm the resident loser. But I do. I was going to say the resident lumberjack or the resident Canadian, but you know. Yeah, effectively, yeah. Which is especially because you guys are listening to this through an audio mean, you will definitely notice the Canadian accent. No, but I do have some real world race experience too. Just like Flood, I'm also a marshal. But I've worked with multiple series, particularly at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I've worked with IMSA, which is, it's a fun experience. They're interesting people. But yeah, so I'm just a big fan of endurance racing. It's basically my passion. One of the only things that I actually do, basically, is watch racing. So, in addition to being good at talking, when I was offered a position to exclusively talk about racing, I was in fact interested, believe it or not.
It's wonderful to have you on, and we're going to get yourself and MW Clarkson and maybe even a few other people on for a marshalling chat one of these days.
That will be interesting, actually, because if there's one thing that I've learned about marshalling is everybody does it slightly different. Even if you're within the same track, every corner does it slightly differently. Yeah. Typically, I mean, 99% of things are the same, but it'll be interesting. I look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Rounding back to what we're talking about today, guys, it's Daytona, baby. We're here. We're finally here. We've been talking about the 2023 season, the convergence between IMSA and WEC regulations. We've been talking about this for years and years and years, and finally we are at the precipice of convergence. How exciting is that? We're finally here.
It's definitely going to be an interesting new era for sports car racing. Honestly, this really is the time to onboard all your friends into sports car racing. I don't think it's a secret that not everybody wants to watch 8, 10, 12, and 24-hour races, but at least if there's a lot of top-class cars that are brand new with a whole bunch of cool paints on them, it will at least keep them interested until hour 3.
And then the crashes will keep you interested after that.
Yeah. That every once in a while you got to keep you on your toes.
And Kris, we're starting off, of course, with the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and that's an event that you've actually been to a few times. Just give us a bit of an idea of what it's like at the track for the Rolex.
It's so larger than life, and I've only been there after that huge Daytona Rising project was completed. It's just crazy because you're sitting there watching sports car racing, you know, the race that you've been watching since you're like 6 years old. And then you're sitting in these grandstands, which if you don't know anything about the Daytona grandstands, it's basically like a sports stadium where they have concourses. They got like sofas and TVs around the entire complex, fresh, like concessions all over. They weren't open for the Rolex, but I imagine NASCAR, they're pretty busy. It's just it's like a sports stadium in there. And then you get a completely different atmosphere once you go underneath the track in the turn 1 or turn 4 tunnels, and you get, there's the camping. Obviously, you don't get that. It's not as big as Sebring, but like you get the infield. It's more like grassroots. There's I believe the merch tents are there, and it's just the only frustrating thing was if you're in the infield, there wasn't that much TVs, and as a person who I want to follow the race and know exactly what's happening. But basically, they have like a TV in the fan zone area, which you could barely see if you're on the grandstands from the International Horseshoe. And then there's the TV that is on, I believe, what was it called? Turn 6, basically on the final corner before you head into the Speedway 1. But yeah, it's very larger than life, and I only been there once, and obviously with my first time there, it was just an experience that I took in. I probably only slept like 3 hours of the entire race. That's how enthralled I was. Even though 2020 may have been not one of the most the better editions of the race, I was still enthralled and entertained and captivated by the whole scene.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Something that I remember hearing Kiwi Kris talk about was that just the sound that reverberates off the banking is just something else.
Especially in the grandstands too. It's so loud because you're just in a metal sarcophagus, and it's just everything just reverberates, and just even under safety. I remember I was as a little 19-year-old lad, decided to poke a little fun of my aunt stuck in the north with all the snow and cold. I was like, "Hey, I'm in Florida," and then all she could hear was just car sounds.
Wow.
Safety car. Yeah. So yeah, it's just crazy how much the sound just goes around the place.
That's cool. I'm really, really excited that you had that experience. Hopefully one day we'll all get together at Daytona and we'll all experience that. Jeb, I know that you've got some friends in the marshalling. Well, I mean, you're a marshal yourself. You mentioned earlier that there's
marshal, by the way.
Really, you don't say. You mentioned earlier that there's some particularities about marshalling at the Rolex 24. Just let us know a bit about what it's like. What it might be like to be, marshalling at the posts on a race like the Daytona 24.
Yeah, so here's the interesting part. I was actually, I'll let the secrets out of the bag, or cats out of the bag. I was actually supposed to do the event this year.
Oh.
I ended up not doing it due to the financial situation and the slight issue of I forgot to get a passport, which severely inhibits my ability to fly internationally. And but anyways, I have friends who've done it multiple times, so I like to think that I'm qualified. Yeah, so marshalling any 24-hour race, which Clarkson can attest to as well, is interesting because you have to work in shifts, which, I mean, obviously, even still, marshalling for 6 hours straight, or 8, or however teams do it, that's the other fun part, too, about marshalling a 24-hour race, is that you guys kind of actually get together on the Thursday and go, all right, how do we want to do this? There's no actual set shift schedule, at the very least for the Rolex. And that's interesting because you can kind of work with each other and come to a consensus and make everybody happy. But it's very interesting. Some of the other, I'm trying to think of some other neat things behind the scenes that I can tell about marshalling. Not too behind the scenes, but you know what I mean?
Well, you were mentioning before about particularly marshalling on the speedway, because there's actually a lack of posts around a lot of the speedway. Yeah,
so I'll touch on that in a sec. Just a couple interesting things, particularly with it being a night race. Well, the Daytona doesn't matter as much as, let's say, like a Road Atlanta, which I know people have done, or other night races like Sebring. But one of the interesting strategies, I don't know if you guys have it over in Australia, the blue flaggers, what my buddies have pioneered doing, somebody's probably come up with it, apart from them, is what they actually do is they wear sunglasses at night. And you'd think like, okay, that sounds stupid. But if you've ever looked at a race car from the front with its headlights on, the lights are really bright. But what the sunglasses allow you to do is, well, A, not be blinded, but B, you can see the outline of the headlights. So what that'll allow you to do is, I mean, you got to be good to do it. You got to know what the headlights look like. But what that actually will allow you to do is to identify which cars are in which class, or at the very least, which make, right? Yeah. You can work out the Porsche headlights aren't a prototype. I mean, until this year, right? But so that's a little bit one of the peculiarities that is quite interesting. The blue flaggers. I mean, the main issue is just trying to do anything at night is awful.
It's really hard. Because
you can't see anything. But also, one of the other funny things too is I know people who have marshaled the Rolex for years upon years upon years, and they said what's funny actually is as a marshal. So they put the marshal worker compound is right next to the bus stop. So it's quite loud, actually. But what that really means is that the instant there's a safety car, all the marshals wake up because it's now quiet. And they go, hang on, why is it quiet? So that I actually know someone who missed their alarm and still made it to their shift because there was a full chorus yellow. But in particular, going back to what you were saying with the banking and all of that, what's really funny is the marshal post, I think it's 7A, is in the middle of the banking. Sorry, in the middle of the bus stop. They have to cover all the way from the middle of that bus stop. For those who don't understand, with a marshal post, you have your post and you have to cover everything up until the next post. But the marshal post that's in the bus stop, has to cover all the way from the exit of the bus stop through Speedway 3 and 4, through the tri-oval to turn 1, where the first post is. The first post is basically where right after where the grass ends on the inside of turn 1. There's a little bit of grass between the pit lane and the track. It's
That's
right
a
there.
Huge sector. So that's a huge sector.
It's ridiculous. And 6, which is the exit of the infield, has to also cover all the way around to where the bus stop starts. 6 makes use of, sometimes they'll have, if they have extra marshals, that's a whole other conversation for the Marshal podcast, is shortage of marshals. What they'll do is they'll basically have a guy stand on the outside or inside of Speedway 1 and 2. I believe it's on the inside of Speedway 1 and 2. And his job is basically just to communicate if there's something that turn 6 can't see. So effectively, he basically just stands there and watches only the banking.
Yeah.
Which honestly actually sounds quite boring. But that's the particularities of it. You do have the advantage of, because they have the Speedway lighting, so you at least, it's not pitch black, but it is still quite dark. It is a very interesting race to marshal too. Because you're at Daytona, right?
Yeah,
like absolutely. You're at Daytona at the end of the day.
Yeah, and for those who maybe aren't familiar, who may be tuning in for the first time, we're not just using the speedway at Daytona as well. There's the infield, and the infield makes the whole situation a lot more difficult because you're not just looking at, the low drag setup to ping around the outside of the speedway the whole time. You're really having to fight the acceleration of getting out of those 2 hairpins and sliding your way through the kink on the inside. It's not an easy situation, not an easy circuit to wrap your head around, is it, Kris?
No, and I think it really showed. I believe I was watching the 2014 Rolex 24 a couple of weeks back, and there was the battle between the Ferrari 458 of Level 5 Motorsport and Flying Lizard Audi, and you could definitely tell where like one of them was, they're faster in the speedway sections, and once they go into the infield, this other car is a bit more nimble and can go around the tighter corners faster. It's really neat to see just the differences between cars and see how they handle better and where they excel.
Yeah, and it's an important part of setting up the car as well. It's one of those great bits of sports car racing that different cars have different strengths in different areas. Just before we get into the particularities of this year, I want to talk about some of our favorite Daytona memories, because the Rolex 24 is one of those marquee events in sports car racing. It's got a lot of history and it's got a lot of memories for a lot of people. So the 2014 event, that was one of the first events I watched, and I remember the controversy after that event between the Level 5 Motorsports and I think it was, did you say it was the Ram Racing Ferrari?
Flying Lizard. Flying Lizard Audi in the Level 5 458.
Yeah, that was, I remember that being an absolute manic finish there. What are some of your favorite memories? We'll go with Jeb first.
Yeah, so The Rolex holds a bit of a special place in my heart because I'm just gonna be 100% honest. It's one of the only endurance races in my time zone. But also,
yeah, that's true.
I kind of got into racing near the end of 2016. Slight aside, my first race my first real race that I watched when I got back into racing was 2016 Fuji, which, if you know anything about the WEC, was an abysmal race. And somehow that got me into sports cars. But so the 2017 Rolex was basically the first race that I actually watched, not in its entirety. I went to bed, but I actually got fan. Yeah, but but it led to a funny situation. This is before I was even in the WEC Discord. I was actually in another YouTuber's Discord, and I was in the voice chat. Nobody was in the voice chat. So one other guy joined at some point, and this is at probably 10 p.m. local. And I talked with him for like probably 30 minutes straight, just casual conversation about the race. I was asking questions as a new fan. And he just he said, "Yeah, man, my brother's in the Aston." I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, my brother's in the Aston." I was like, "Hang on," and it was what's his name? He was an Aston factory driver, something Sorensen.
Marco Sorensen.
It was Marco Sorensen's brother, Lasse Sorensen.
That's hilarious.
I was talking with him for 45 minutes, and I had no idea who he was. So that was a very funny moment, and that's definitely why the Rolex holds a bit of a special place in my heart.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Lasse Sorensen races in the NASCAR Will & Euro series.
What a small world. That's amazing.
I can out-niche you, though. He races in Danish Formula Ford.
I mean, we're definitely known for going super niche, so that's some great trivia there. Kris, what about you? What are some of your favorite memories?
I think it has to be like remembering 2015, 2016, maybe 2017, like that era, and just staying up all night and just like watching the GT Le Mans train just race each other with rooftop ray. Like I was watching 2015 or 2016 recently. It just pulled back so much nostalgia of watching that GT Le Mans train just race each other so hard, and Falcon being there, and Corvettes and the Porsches and the Bimmers and the Ford GTs. It was it just really sticks out to me. Not a particular moment, but just like something that's happened in that era. And then I obviously, like 2020 when I first went there, but I remember my first Rolex memory was, I believe I watched 2007 on Speed, and I remember watching it, but it was one of those things where I remember watching it, but don't remember anything from it. But that was one of my first memories. But my favorite probably has to be just the crazy GT Le Mans battles in the night with rooftop ray.
That's a classic. I love like the fact that one camera can do the whole night stint and cover the whole track is one of the unique things about Daytona, and Rooftop Ray is an absolute legend for being able to do that. And yeah, that's an absolute cracker of a memory. Yeah, nice one. For me, I got to say that I think it was the 2016 race where we had all three classes decided by less than a second, and with the last stint just coming down to the absolute wire. I think for me that was one of the top races of sports cars, let alone of the Rolex. So that one for me is one of my favorite memories. But the Rolex 24 is actually the first endurance race I ever watched. I think it was 2008 I came across a stream of it, or a broadcast of it, and it was when the Brumos Porsche won. So obviously being a Porsche fan, I enjoyed that quite a lot, and lo and behold, 15 years later, here I am. Funny how that all works out. This year we've got, we're doing this podcast recording, if it doesn't come out before then, ahead of the Raw test. So we don't actually have any concrete numbers in terms of, balance performance or lap times, or whatever, but we'll talk about that a little later on. The schedule for this year, kind of runs similar to what we've seen, pardon me, the last few years, where we've got the Raw test ahead of the event, where we'll see all the cars on track for practice, and qualifying ahead of the race this weekend, which is a bit of a unique thing. Is there anywhere else in the world where you do qualifying a week ahead of the actual race, or is that just here?
Indy 500.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, okay, I'll pay that one. We've also got MX5 Cup supporting the event, which is really exciting.
That'd be next week, Flood. The week after.
Yeah, so for the actual Daytona 24, so MX5. Also at the Raw is Pilot Challenge, I believe.
Nope, that's also next week.
Okay. Yep. Chris, you guys probably know better than I am. What's going on this weekend?
Right, so it's basically just the testing for all the series. And then, I don't think Mazda is testing. Then you have, obviously, the main qualifying, which ends the weekend to set the grid for the Rolex 24. On top of that, on Saturday and Sunday, what you get is 2 45-minute races from the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, which replaced Prototype Challenge. Prototype Challenge doesn't exist anymore. So what VP Racing Challenge is that it's a 45-minute race length where they have LMP3s and GT4s racing each other. As classes, and I believe we have around something around 15 to 20 entries for that event, which is not the worst, but basically it's just racing for this weekend, and it gets everybody a little hyped for Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. And then come to the actual 24-hour weekend, we'll have MX5 Cup supporting. We'll have the Michelin Pilot Challenge with their headline event, the 4-hour race on Friday night as well. So that's always a good one to have a look at, and I'm sure that there's some names in the Pilot Challenge as well that we'll come across. And then of course practice and the Rolex 24. So bumper schedule, plenty to be watching, and I'm sure most of that will be streamed on either IMSA TV or something along those lines. I'm not sure. I haven't really watched too much of the support action from the Rolex before.
Yeah, so everything, if you're international, except for the Baltics, Poland, Netherlands, or Belgium, and then some of the Scandinavian countries, they have like a deal with Viaplay.
Okay,
that might be just main. That might be just for main IMSA though. So if you're one of those countries, don't be surprised if you're geo-blocked out of main IMSA. But for the supports, except for the United States, IMSA TV will be your go-to. Peacock in the States will have everything. And I believe the Mazda races are actually free for all. So nobody should have a problem accessing the Mazda races.
Nice. So let's talk about this race now. We've got a new era in sports car racing. We've been talking about it for ages. Convergence, it's finally here. We've got LMDh actually happening, as in it's actually on the grid. And not just that, we've got 9 cars on the grid. That's like a crazy way to start this new era. On top of that as well, we've got a further 19 prototypes between LMP2 and LMP3. So there's going to be plenty of prototype action. And then we've got friggin' 33 GT cars as well. This is a crazy sized field. We've got 9 GTD-Pro entries, 24 GTD entries. Guys, looking at this grid, it's a crazy size to start this new era.
And just to think that there's 80 cars or something there on that applied. They had to have a reserve list for this event, which was the first time since 2014. So it's just crazy interest, and obviously led to quite a lot of debates online about a particular class, which we'll get to later. And unfortunately, it mean that we left a certain couple of teams out. But that's just the way it is. I mean, with you have an event like this that's very oversubscribed, I mean, it's just bound to happen. But what we got is good regardless, and hopefully people don't, take what we don't have and use it as sour.
Yeah. Well, it's a great recovery for the event, because it wasn't too long ago that we were struggling to get grids in the size of 40. So this is a great sign. Jeb, what are you most excited about in this grid of, what is it, 50 something cars, 51 cars?
Well, I mean, obviously it's got to be the 2 AWA LMP3s. No, it's in terms. Obviously, I'm most excited for the GTPs. You got to understand, from somebody who got into sports car racing through 2016, 2017, I'm not used to having international top tier prototypes having more than 3 cars.
Yeah.
So seeing 9, even just for IMSA, is very mind blowing. I mean, I'm really just excited for a bit of everything, but I just want to see these prototypes race. That's about it. I mean, I'm going to support my obviously my FAF guys down in the GTs, but in terms of the prototypes, even I was talking with Kris about this a couple days ago. I'm still undecided as to who I'm really going to root for in the top class prototypes, and so I'm hoping that this race will give me a bit of motivation as to who to cheer on.
That's really interesting. I'm going to quiz you about that later on, because I find that really difficult to fathom, truth be told. That's the fact that we've got 9 cars straight away off the bat for GTP is a bit wild. So let's dive into GTP, because 9 cars is a great starting point. Is this, like we've talked about it, it's built as the dawn of a new era. Is this actually the dawn of a new golden age in sports cars? We're starting off with 9 cars. We're expecting to see, Lamborghini enter GTP at some point as well with an LMDh car in the next year or so. Is this the start of the new golden age? Will we be talking about this like we'll be talking about Group C, in 20 years' time?
I honestly think we will be. I mean, we're not going to know until it happens, but I at the very least, worst knock on wood, if this goes absolutely atrocious and in 2025 we have 2 manufacturers again, we will at least talk about, man, do you know how many guys gave it a shot?
That's a good point, and we've got 9 cars from 4 manufacturers. That's a great starting point. Kris, what are your thoughts?
It really depends. I think, obviously, on face value, you take a look at all this manufacturer interest. You take a look at all the cars that, obviously it was a very slow start to get here. 3 cars in the debut hypercar race. But now we got, 2023 LMDh is debuting. I mean, we got more than 10 cars in the WEC full season entry list for the top class. Although, how many of them will run the full season? That's going to be another question. So on face value, take a look at all this interest in all these cars, and yeah, I would consider it a new entrance into a golden age. Obviously, there's some people a little bit sour about the whole BOP and how they don't get to push technology anymore. They don't get to win races by 30 laps anymore. And it's like, I don't know. I get where they're coming from. They want to see the technology be pushed, but like, I don't know. I think I would rather have this than what we had for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Good racing is the priority, I think, for the most part. And 9 cars, the top class will give that, you'd hope. Of course, we haven't actually seen these cars on track yet together, so we don't have any times to sort of compare them. But if you're not sure on who the entry is, we'll take you through. We've got 2 cars from Cadillac Racing under the Cadillac Racing banner, which I think is I'm not sure actually who's running that, because I know that the wheel and engineering car is being run by Action Express, which is the 3rd Cadillac. Kris?
Yep, the Cadillac racing cars will be ran by Chip Ganassi.
It came into my head as you were saying it. So, of course, because they're 01 and 02. Of course they're Chip Ganassi. Then we've got 2 cars from Porsche Penske Motorsport, 6 and 7. Of course, that is a harken back to not just like 20 years ago when we were seeing the American Le Mans series and the RS Spider, but also like 40 years before that with the 917 and the whole Can-Am thing. So like that is a very exciting thing for me personally as a Porsche fan. Wayne Taylor Racing and Andretti are running the Acuras. One of the Acuras, and then you've got the other Acura being run by Maya Shank with Curb Agajay. I still can't pronounce that. It's been 6 years, 8 years. So 2 Acuras on the grid, as well as 2 BMWs from BMW Team RLL. So that's where your 9 cars are coming from. Jeb, what is the most surprising thing, or the most the thing that sticks out to you most in this 9 car field? What is the thing that really grabs your eye?
For me, honestly, I feel like this is a trick question. Or are you just asking my actual opinion?
I am actually asking your actual opinion.
Actual opinion. To me, it's there's 2 things. I know you said 1, I'm saying 2. Number 1, it's how stacked the Meyer Shank is to me.
Meyer Shank,
absolutely stacked driver lineup.
So that car has Tom Blomqvist, Helio Castroneves, Simon Pagenaud, and Colin Braun, which is I'm excited to see Colin Braun in that car. Truth be told,
what a what a car. There's so many big names in it. They got 3 platinums, they got gold. It's incredible. What also sticks out to me is equally how stacked the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsports car is, with Gemini, Tandy, Cameron. At the very least, regardless of what you feel about them, those are 3 guys that have been around the sport for a long time, and more importantly, they've been good in the sport for a long time. So, I in my opinion, it's going down. Who I'm aligning with so far, it's between those 2.
You're calling the shots very early. What about you, Kris? What's the thing that sticks out to you most?
What sticks out to me is I know there's some talk about this early on last week, and I want to keep in mind that this is what the entry list for the Roar is. Just want to specify that. It's not the final one, so there could be a little bit of changes here or there. Most of it's pretty settled, but there could be 1 or 2 changes to the list from this podcast, because this is only for the Roar. As of right now, it could change. I see Colton Herta listed for both the 24 and the 25.
Interesting. I did not notice that. So why?
I didn't pick up on that either, actually.
Why would Colton Herta be listed in both cars?
More testing time, maybe.
That's possible.
Or maybe I don't know. That's my small pea brain thinking that's might how it work. Yeah, maybe that could be the case. Maybe they're actually going to have him do, double duty. But I don't think so. I think unless they're going to announce another driver late, it could be a possibility. But we'll have to wait to find out early next week.
Well, Colton Herta is probably the name that surprises me most in that the entry list across those cars. It's not I know it's a name that comes from IndyCar, and that's one of the things about the Rolex 24 is that it's really America's big American contingent with like a sprinkling of internationality over the top. But of all of the names in that entry list, that is the one that I'm least familiar with, and as a result, most not concerned isn't the right word, but like most ambivalent about, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't, if you've got the chance to test in both cars, then that would be wonderful.
And I think it's no secret that he doesn't have a lot of prototype experience, but like he has raced with this team before with the M8s and didn't win a Rolex. So they kept him around, I would presume, because of that. And he's not that half bad of a driver.
Yeah, fair enough.
Here's another bit of reasoning too. Just me thinking, you can run the Rolex on 3 drivers. So is it possible they just have him listed as a reserve in the event that they need to replace a driver in either car? Not necessarily replaces and something happens, but as in just, hey, you know what? For example, Farfus is feeling a bit tired. We're going to put Herta in for a stint, something like that. He could truly just be a reserve.
That's true. He's listed as the second driver on the 24 on Wikipedia, but I'm not sure whether or not that translates to like hierarchy in the team or whatever. That's just based on how they're entered. So that's a good point, Jeb.
As per IMSA's entry list, he is listed as the 4th driver on each list, and that's the only reason I came to that conclusion.
Good sleuthing. I'm impressed.
I'd put the reserve last on the list. That's just me.
Yeah, that's very smartly done. Looking at those entries, can you pick a winner? Can you pick anything? First of all, what are we going to expect? Like, these are the first races with new cars in new chassis as well, because these are based on next year's new LMP2 chassis. Is there anything that we can expect right now that we're going to put our hat on and say this is probably going to happen?
I think like the more popular consensus that's going around is that these cars are going to have trouble.
Yeah.
They did that Daytona test in early December where they had all 4 of these cars. I believe they had all 4 of these cars, which was required by IMSA if they wanted to race in 2023. And every there was cars breaking down. There was teams fixing stuff, and there's like, oh well, the supply chain, which means that we have to make this last while we can. Just lots of problems down the board. And the fact that this is according to the Racer channel, which what Marshall Pruitt says. Like, none of these teams have these cars figured out yet. And if that's still the case come race weekend time, it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, and on that note as well, these cars are all using the same spec hybrid, so they probably haven't gotten their head around how that works yet and how that incorporates with their power plants and in their chassis. So if that becomes an issue, then that'll be a big issue for the teams. So on that note, how many cars are we expecting to finish from this class then? Anyone brave?
Yeah, 5.
5? So you reckon about 50% attrition-ish?
About 50% attrition. Here's why. They have not tested in the rain. And these cars have very large electrical systems, which traditionally don't like rain. Also because I'm just feeling lucky. That's my number.
Nice.
Final answer.
I like that. Kris, get away in.
I'll go a little bit more braver. I'll say 3.
Wow.
3.
Yep. Because it's Daytona, we gotta do it for Dale.
We're gonna do it.
Okay.
God damn it. Something I want to throw out there is that a lot of the names that I'm seeing in, for example, the Porsche and the BMW are guys that have a lot of GT racing experience, but maybe not guys with prototype experience. You know, the likes of Matteo Jaminet, Michael Christensen, Matt Campbell, Nick Tandy. Those guys in the Porsche stable have been racing a lot of GT stuff. And then if you look at BMW, Augusto Farfus, Sheldon Vanderlinde, a current DTM champion, Philip Eng, these guys have been used to racing GTs. So how is that going to translate to maneuvering through traffic at the highest level of ability on the Daytona banking? Is that going to be something that might cause issue?
Yes.
How much? I mean, obviously these guys are all fantastic drivers and they're used to driving around slower traffic in GT racing, but there is an extra level of speed that comes with being in a prototype that you don't get in a GT car.
And Nick Tandy, he did win Le Mans in 2015 with the LMP1, so like you said, it is a jump. But what I did love to see is that these brands, like, they were loyal. They're like, hey, you were racing with us so many years. We only had GT cars, like sometimes only GT3 programs. And now that we're moving up, we want to take you along for the ride and then, bump up whatever junior drivers they have to the slots they were in and whatever GT3 racing they were doing. I think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously we've seen this with the, which we'll talk about it in WEC season preview, I'll imagine we'll do, with Ferrari and AF Corson, how they did it. And it's just awesome to see that these guys who have just been in GTs for so long finally get a crack at top class racing.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. I'm thrilled to see an Australian in the form of Matt Campbell in a factory Porsche program. That absolutely tickles me to the absolute bottom of my heart. It's wonderful to see a guy who was racing in Carrera Cup go on to do such an awesome, be a part of such an awesome program. Okay, now, favorite part of the show, predictions. Who's gonna win in this 9-car class? Who's gonna win Daytona overall? Who's going to be the first GTP class winner? Who wants to go first? Who's brave? Who's feeling it? Give us a top 3.
I'm not going first. I'm not going first.
You're not going first? Okay, Kris.
No.
I think just from what we know, because obviously Porsche's been the one doing most of the testing, that seems like the safe answer. I'm gonna go with the 6.
So that's Dane Cameron, Matteo Jaminet, Nick Tandy as the winner. Do you want to fill out the podium as well?
And I'm not gonna put all of my eggs in the basket on Porsche. I'm gonna go with Wayne Taylor. Wayne Taylor's always been pretty good around here with the 10.
So Felipe Albuquerque, Louis Delatraz, Brendan Hartley, and Ricky Taylor. That's a great lineup as well.
And then the Action Express has been always hit or miss here. I'll bank on the 60. I'll bank on Acura not having any problems, which is probably going to put me in the red. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah. So that's that, as we made mention earlier. That's Tom Blomqvist, Colin Braun, Helio Castroneves, and Simon Pagenaud. Simon Pagenaud? Pagenaud.
Simon Pagenaud.
Pagenaud.
So you're doubling up on the Acuras, Kris.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's probably a very, very bad bet to take at the casino, but I don't know. I like them. I like the cut of the jib.
And to be fair, they're the team that they're being built out of the Oreca chassis. So if the current LMDh regulations are anything to go by, you know that chassis's got a lot of pace in it.
Oh, definitely.
Jeb, you feeling brave? You made a decision?
All right, I'm going for it, and I'm hedging my bets. Let me tell you what. These are going to be some big ones because I have some caveats with it.
Caveats? We need to get you on the show more often.
Oh, absolutely. So let me tell you what. Here's the rundown. Overall, I think it will either be, but if I had to rank it, I think most likely to win it is probably I think it's the 0-1.
0-1.
I think, and here's my reasoning, it's because those guys have been around the Rolex so long, a broken clock's right 2 times a day. Like, they have to win it at some point.
So that's the Chip Ganassi Cadillac Racing, Sebastian Bourdais, Scott Dixon, and Renger van der Zande car. That's a pretty good shout. I'm not going to lie. And the Chip Ganassi Racing is traditionally just strong at Rolex.
Yeah, that's part of my reasoning too. Is Chip's just been around it so much, even with these new cars. Now, all of these picks have a big asterisk over them that says barring technical issue. Because that is the problem with making these picks for a new era of racing.
Well, I mean, that's the point, right?
Don't know what to expect. I'm feeling the stress, man. So that would be my overall pick. Second, I'm honestly undecided. I think it's either going to be the 60 Meyershank Racing, Blomqvist, Brown, I guess, Castroneves, Pagenaud, or the number 6.
Which is the Dane Cameron Tandy car that Kris picked as well.
And my only reasoning is that the driver lineups are so strong. Once again, Meyershank, they've been around it for a while, so I have faith in them. But also, with the Porsche Penske team, it is a team with factory support from Porsche, run by Roger Penske. I just don't see how this can go wrong, bar any sort of incident, or the car just dies, or they get caught up in traffic. That's the only way I see them having issues. I don't think that they will be slow. I just cannot imagine it.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, it's Porsche, who are renowned for coming into series and winning, and Penske, who are renowned for coming into series and winning. Like, that's how that works. Yeah, I'm going to go with Porsche as well, but I'm going to go with the number 7 because I'm going to be Australian about it. Come on, it's Matt Campbell. From that, I reckon I'm also going to go the number 10, the Albuquerque Delatraz Hartley Ricky Taylor Wayne Taylor racing car, and then I'm not sure. I'm excited to see Colin Brown in the number 60. I'm excited to see Pipo Derani in the number 31, the Whelen Engineering car. But I'm not as confident, pardon me, on their strength in terms of what I expect from them in terms of results. So I might even go back to Porsche and go with the number 6. So that's who I'm picking. Before we move on from GTP, which car do you reckon looks the best?
I honestly, people are gonna call me insane. Obviously, all of them I think look really good, but just from an interesting and unique standpoint, the BMW is really up there because it's one of the only hypercars or GTPs or however you want to call them, where it's like if you look at that car, you automatically know what it is. Like the big sniffers just immediately give it out.
I would agree.
Pretty wild. When we've got the first renders of the BMW, I was so sure that it was going to look absolutely terrible, and then we got it in livery, and I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. And of course, with the big the big kidney grills in the front, you couldn't mistake that for anything else.
Right, yep. And that's why I liked it, because when you take a look at it, like if you show somebody who's not big into sports cars, like they'll more likely have a chance to know what it is than if you say, here's a Porsche, here's the Porsche, or here's the Cadillac.
See, I disagree. I think the Porsche have done a very good job of representing their brand identity in the 963, and that's my favorite. And I'm definitely not biased at all, not even a little bit. How dare you even suggest that? But I think that the Porsche looks like a Porsche, so I'm quite happy with that as well. Jeb, what about yourself?
Personally, it really feels lame siding with the guys who win all the time, but I think the Porsche looks the best, honestly.
Good man.
It's just here's the key. Hang on. You made a statement and you said you feel that it best represents their brand identity. I actually disagree heavily. That does not look like any Porsche road car at all.
What?
But it looks good.
I mean, okay, yeah, that's fair. When the Porsche got released, I went on a full-on, I did a full-on essay on, all the little pieces that made it look like a Porsche. So I think it does very well to represent all the things about the Porsche brand. The Taycan headlights and the sweeping snout, which is lifted straight from the Taycan, the single light bar at the rear, the livery that looks like it's from the 917. All those little things to me are just that's Porsche. Maybe I'm just a Porsche nuffy though, so maybe they just speak to me, but not anyone else.
And before we jump off at GTP, just a couple of tiny tidbits. Talking about these cars and all the intricacies and differences, if you go to the Racer YouTube channel, Marshall Pruitt is currently uploading technical analyses of hype. Right now, they only have Acura and BMW up, but he plans to have both of them. Porsche and Cadillac up as well, and also they'll be having Roar test day coverage as well with our pal Graham Goodwin.
Yeah, which will always be good. Just to round off in GTP, I think the Cadillac looks the worst. I don't like it. I know Cadillacs are by design blocky and gross, but that looks of all the GTP cars, that looks the most blocky and the most gross.
And JDC, Miller, and Proton will have GTP entries in. The rumored date is Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
They'll be started from there. That's with the Porsche 963s.
Yep. Soon.tm. Because of course we couldn't get through to a brand new class without some sort of delays happening. So that's GTP. How exciting is that? We're finally here. We're finally going to be able to see GTP on track for the first time after talking about it for years and years. But that's not all we've got here at Daytona. We've got another too many cars to think about. We've got 4 other classes. So let's look down the list. We'll go straight to LMP2. Another all Oreca affair in LMP2. We kind of expect that nowadays. We've got, I think it's 10 cars, all in Orecas. A few different teams, a few teams from International as well. So TDS Racing are bringing 2 cars. Proton Competition are running in LMP2. AF Corsa are running LMP2 car, which is super duper interesting. High Class Racing continuing in LMP2. And then you've got a 5-car American field as well. Crowd Sight Racing by APR, Tower Motorsports, ERA Motorsports, Rickware Racing, and PR1 Matthias Motorsports, who have been one of the stalwarts in LMP2 for the IMSA series. Guys, where do we start here? There's plenty to look at in this class. A lot of American names, a few really cool internationals. Kris, what's the one thing that jumps out at you, the most exciting thing about this LMP2 class?
It has to be the Bus Bros car with the 8 with Tower Motorsports. Obviously, it has to be that.
It's a pretty cool car.
Got McLaughlin and Joseph Newgarden, and it's pretty much like a IndyCar special because you also got Kiffin Simpson, who's on the road to Indy. I think he's doing Indy next this year as well. And then you got obviously the guy who brings the money, Canadian John Ferrano with Tower Events. Yeah, that's a car that's immediately going to jump out to people. Especially since if you watch Bus Bros at all, very entertaining show. Please watch it. And they're probably going to be doing an episode, I would imagine, at Daytona. So that should be really fun.
And very big interest from my side of the world as well, because as you made mention, Scott McLaughlin, his debut in a prototype. That's so wild. That's incredible. I'm so excited to see that. Jeb, what about yourself? What are you looking forward to in this class?
Well, personally, I have a love-hate relationship with the Era Motorsports car because they sent me a whole bunch of cool stuff, and it's got Ollie Jarvis, and I don't think it's a secret. The listeners might not know, but I very much am, I would say, a simp for the Mazda program.
And
any of the drivers that came out of the Mazda program.
Yeah.
Which won the 2019 Watkins Glen 6-hour and the 2019 Mobil 1 Sports Car Grand Prix. Brushes shoulders. However, let's be real. Ollie Jarvis is kind of one of the only bigger names in that car, which is why I'm going with the PR1 Matheson. The Ben Keating, Lapierre. He's the guy. They're winning it. The IndyCar prototype, the IndyCar car, if you will.
Yep.
They're a good choice. I don't know. For me, I'm going with Ben Keating. It's Ben Keating. I don't think I have to explain my reasoning, so I'm just going to say it's Ben Keating's car.
Yeah, and if you've been a fan of the show for a little while, you know how much of a love relationship we have with Ben Keating, so that should come at no surprise to anyone. He is just the best personality in the entire industry, and that's good enough. And, like, he's in a car with Nicolas Lapierre and Paul Chetin. Like, what could go wrong? I'm surprised. I'm really excited to see Proton competition and AF Corsa running in LMP2. Proton, I would expect, are there as a sort of precursor to getting their GTP car. But AF Corsa, like the fact that AF Corsa are running in LMP2 again, like. And that the names in that car as well, like a Ferrari factory driver Nicholas Nielsen, and the likes of Julian Canal, Matteo Vaxiviere, and Francois Perotto. Like that's a wonderful car as well. The number 88.
Yeah, it's Francois Perotto's first time at the rodeo. I remember it was 2014 or 2015 where he was in a GT Le Mans entry, and he didn't have that much good luck in that race. But hopefully things will turn around for him. Obviously, he's been racing LMP2s for a couple of years now. Obviously, got a couple of GTE AM championships since then. They got a little Matthew Vaccine. His last name's too hard to pronounce. You just call it Vaccine. And then we got Julian Canal, which I believe races for Panis in ELMS. And like you said, Nicholas Nielsen, who is going to be on the AF Corsa hypercar drive.
Which is that's a incredibly, we're gonna say the word, it's incredibly stacked. It's an incredibly stacked lineup there for the Italian flagged AF Corsa team with 3 Frenchmen behind the wheel. What about Proton? Jimmy Bruni and James Allen in that car alongside Fred Pordad, who was running last year in the Proton GTE-AM car, I believe. I think that was the number 90. Oh,
it was like a 88 or something, or 70. It was in the yellow livery, kind of like a Ukraine flag car.
Yes,
it wasn't that one.
That was the one. Yep, you're exactly right. I've got it on my entry list just in front of me. That I'm excited to see Jimmy Bruni at the wheel of a prototype. I don't think that's happened for quite a while.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, and obviously James Allen, he's been racing LMP2s for quite a while now. So I remember Dragon Speed was like his signature team, I believe, and obviously maybe some other stuff in the ELMS. But obviously the cause for concern here is the little Fred Pordad, which I don't rate him. Actually, I really don't think he's that good. So I think he's going to be holding down this team a whole lot, because remember, he was the one that got involved with that Toyota incident at Sebring. He also, I believe, did some stupid stuff at Fuji. I'm trying to remember if that was him or not.
So,
and then
in defense of Fred Pordad, the Toyota thing at Sebring was entirely not his fault. I will go into bat for him on that one. Jose Maria Lopez absolutely messed that up. He closed the door when there was not a door to be closed. So, objection. But yeah, no, I also agree. He's not really that pacey as a bronze driver.
And this is his first time in the LMP2.
That too, as well.
All this time, he's only been racing in GTE and racing, I believe, with the Wright Motorsport and GT World Challenge America.
Yeah.
So, this is a hashtag wait and see, but I don't have high hopes for, at least with him driving in it.
I think that's fair enough. I'm more excited about the team being in LMP2, to be honest. Let's look at some of the other big names in this entry list. I can spot on here in the TDS racing car, Job van Uitert, who's been a name that's come up the ranks quite a fair bit. Raffaele Marciello is driving the high-class racing car with Dennis Anderson and Anders Fjordbak, which makes me very excited.
Ed Jones in that car too,
and Ed Jones. That's a pretty cool looking car. Jeb made mention of Oliver Jarvis, which is quite exciting as well.
There's Christian Rasmussen, who is racing, I believe. He's either in racing in Formula 3 or Road to Indy. They got Ryan Dial, who's just been racing in prototypes in North America for like a really long time now, like 15, 20 years.
That car has got Dwight Merriman in it, which is...
yeah, that's all you need to know about that car.
I mean, officially, the entry list says to be determined. I mean...
It's Aero Motorsport, it's Dwight Merriman.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a gambler. I could place bets on who I think it's going to be, but
yeah,
officially we'll wait and see.
Also, we've got Esteban Gutierrez and Ben Hanley in the CrowdStrike car, so there's quite a bit of quality in this field. So it's not like these are names that are unfamiliar to people outside of America. These are big names across the field, so it's not a surprise. Well, even though it's the LMP2 class, there's still a lot of quality here. Mikkel Jensen's also in this field. So, like, Mikkel Jensen, Peugeot LMH driver, Mikkel Jensen. So, there's a lot of quality here. Is this the most... Is this the most stacked that LMP2 has been in IMSA in terms of driver quality?
But potentially. I mean, take a look at Rick Ware, which, if you know anything about the North American racing scene, they're mainly taken on as a meme. But, I mean, look at the car. They're doing full season IMSA, but this 4-car driver lineup includes Eric Lux, which I believe is the money man, Pietro Fittipaldi, Hickory Speedway track champion, and also raced in Formula 1, whatever that series is.
Yeah.
Devlin DiFrancesco, who is an IndyCar driver for Andretti, and then Austin Cindric, 2022 Daytona 500 champion, and races with Penske for the NASCAR Cup Series.
There you go.
And he also raced. And he raced the Bathurst 12-hour before.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you know that Austin Cindric's first endurance race was the Bathurst 12-hour, and I think it was 2017 with Erebus Motorsport?
Yeah. And I mean, he raced with Daytona before. He raced with the Fords when they had like the NASCAR guys racing that. They might be doing the same thing this year. We haven't got a word on it. But yeah, Austin Cindric is not just a NASCAR her turn left driver. He has lots of experience at the road courses, and yeah, I mean, this is a pretty well-rounded LMP. Obviously, you get the pay drivers and the guys who own the team, but apart from that, some really good stars in this field.
I will say what I think is funny about Cindric being in the Rick Ware car is it shows what Roger Penske thinks of Rick Ware Racing, that he is willing to release his driver to race for a competitor in the Rolex. I think it shows the gap between the two teams is what I'm saying. Yes, they're in different classes, but
yeah,
I think it's all you need to know about Rick Ware if you're not from the United States.
Fair enough. Before we get into predictions and what we expect from this class, I do want to make mention that having a bronze driver is a requirement of this class. That's why we're talking about, this is the AM driver, this is as Kris puts, the money man behind putting the car together, and that's not unexpected. But I wanted to pose a question to you guys. What is the point of having the LMP2 class in IMSA? If we're going to see GTP be the next big thing, and we're going to see these chassis being pushed up into the GTP area, what is the point of having the LMP2 class in the IMSA competition broadly? Like, or why do we have it here?
That's where you get one of your Le Mans invites. We have something called the Truman Aiken Awards, which I believe those two are separate, but it's basically those for the best bronze driver in LMP2 and in GTD. So, like, case in point, you have John Ferrano, I believe, won it last year, so he's going to be racing at Le Mans this year. So most likely there'll be a Tower Motorsports branded LMP2 at Le Mans. Then you have Ryan Hardwick, same thing with GT. They're going to be racing most likely with a Wright Motorsports branded GTE Porsche. So it's basically to keep in more in line with the ACO and what they're doing. And like, there's obviously it was a struggle for a while. I'm not gonna lie with LMP2 and IMSA, but now that we're gonna have, let's see, what we have 10 cars in the Rolex, and then most of these, I think Proton and AF Corse are only one-offs, but most of these are either Michelin Endurance Cup or full season. I believe we get at least 5 of them full season. So I think I would, as a selfish point of view, I would much rather have LMP2s than like the LMP3s we're going to cover pretty soon.
I also will just say really quickly, because I do feel strongly on I have strong opinions on what is the point of LMP2 and IMSA, if you don't mind, Flood.
Sure, go ahead.
The point of LMP2 and IMSA is because, let's be honest, you cannot go from an LMP3 car to an LMDh or an LMH. That's straight up just not happening. There are some tracks where the LMP3s are slower than the GTE cars that we saw. You cannot make that gap logically. That's putting people in cars that are too fast, too quickly, and more importantly, the LMP2s will keep showing up to rounds, even not just the big endurance races. The manufacturers love the big endurance races. They absolutely love it, right? It puts them on a world stage. Are you really going to consistently get 9, 10, 12, 14, 16 GTPs at Mid-Ohio? Are you going to get them at Road America? Not really. It's not as drawing. The LMP2 guys, they either have the money to do it, or they're a privateer-funded team where they just want to do it. The big OEMs, there's no motivation for them outside of those big events. That is the purpose of LMP2, is yes, they do kind of get in the way of these bigger events like the Enduros. However, you need them for the smaller events, and more importantly, you need them for the development. Josh Pearson, who's probably one of the biggest up-and-coming guys in LMP2, up-and-coming, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
He could not make the jump because I'm going to be honest, he will probably get a very good seat in prototypes in the future. He could not have made that jump if he did not have LMP2s.
I think
that's why you need LMP2s.
I think that's a great point, actually. In the reason why LMP2 follows the IMSA bandwagon as well. So that's a very good point, very well made there, Jeb. Okay, on that note, we'll do a quick prediction then. We've got 10 cars here to choose from. We'll have a look at who we reckon is going to win, then we'll talk about LMP3. Jeb, since you've had a bit of time to think about it, who's going to win the LMP2 class?
Well, I wasn't thinking about it, but honest bets, LMP2 is such a shuffle. It's a bit of a roulette, but honestly, I think the Ben Keating cars, I think the 52 has it. The driver lineup is too good to not have it.
Yeah, so that's...
I'm thinking it's the 52.
52, so that's PR1 Matthias Motorsports, Paul Lipschatin, Ben Keating, Nicola Lapierre, and Alex Quinn. I think that's a pretty good shout. The thing is with the LMP2 class is that the silver and the bronze driver affects the pace so much. All the pro drivers are kind of interchangeable, but the silver and the bronze are the ones that really have the difference in pace. So you're kind of picking the best AM in this instance, and Keating is probably the best AM. What about Kris? What do you reckon?
I'm gonna go with the 35 TDS racing car.
Guido van der Garde, Francois Herault, Josh Pearson, and Job van Oyter. That's a really interesting one. I didn't realize Josh Pearson. That's United Autosports Josh Pearson, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
the same one, the young lad himself.
The youngest ever WEC class winner, I think.
Possibly, I believe so. I think it broke that record at Sebring. Yeah, it was Sebring.
Yeah, which is pretty wild. I think that one flies under the radar a bit. I didn't really flag that one as one that could win. I was looking more at AF Corse. I think that driver lineup of 3 very established French drivers, including Francois Perotto and also Ferrari factory driver Nicholas Nielsen. That's kind of terrifying, truth be told. Let's talk about LMP3 then. LMP3 has 9 cars, and in the past, it's well, maybe not LMP3, but Prototype Challenge, which existed prior to LMP3, had a bit of a reputation for being, how do we put it, mobile chicanes. Now, this is a very big entry list. We're talking 50-something cars. 9 of them are going to be LMP3 cars. I will pose the question again at the end of this discussion about whether or not LMP3 should be included in this list, but that's a discussion to have afterwards. 9 cars is a pretty healthy field for LMP3. We've got an even split almost between the Ligier JSP 320 and the Duquesne M30 D08, which is quite encouraging. Because previously it'd been Formula Ligier for a while. There's some interesting names in here. I want to start with the two Australians in the field, Cameron Shields and Josh Burden. Now, Josh Burden, I know, raced the KCMG Nissan at the 2020 Bathurst 12 Hour. Well, I say raced. He set the fastest time in practice 1 and then crashed it, and that car was out for the rest of the weekend. Cameron Shields, though, that's a driver I'm not actually all that familiar with, despite being an Australian. And I believe that's because he's part of the IndyCar ladder. Is that right?
Yeah, he's more in line with the open wheel side of things. I believe he might have been racing with the Australian Formula 4 Championship when that existed.
We had a Formula 4 Championship?
Yeah, the very short time it lasted. And maybe he did some S5000 races, I can't remember. But he's been more in line with the open wheel side of things, so it's nice to see him make the start here into sports car racing. And then you got, like you said, Josh Burton. Oh, sorry, I should mention that Cameron Shields is in the 38 Performance Tech Motorsports car, which I believe was one of the teams from that Prototype Challenge era, along with Connor Bloom, Christopher Allen, John DeAngelis. Then you got Josh Burden, who, like, I believe he usually is seen with... He was around the KCMG guys, wasn't he?
Yeah, so yeah, he was racing the KCMG Nissan at the Bathurst 12 Hour, where, yeah, as I said, set the fastest time in practice 1 and then crashed it.
And he's in a very good car.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an Australian cheering for, an Australian to win, this is a very, very good chance, because the 74 is pretty much dominant. Because this is the Riley Motorsports car with the classic orange, very bright orange and kind of metallic blue on it. And it's Gar Robinson funding the team. And you got Felipe Fraga.
Which is a pretty good driver.
Yeah, that's an understatement and a half.
Yeah. Just a quick thing before we get too deep into the drivers here. There's actually specific rules in LMP3 about which drivers you can have. So you can only have one gold per car. So one gold rated driver. And then you can have, I think it's a certain number of drivers under 30 years old. So that means you got a really interesting mix of like young up-and-coming drivers or drivers who are on the way up, who are still rated silver, and some former like platinum drivers who are on like aging out, so to speak. So one of those, for example, is Joel Barbosa, who's driving the number 33 Sean Creech Motorsports car, and that's like a name from the old Grand Am days.
Yeah, and he's been racing with Action Express in the Mustang sampling car, to be exact, for quite a while. And even after the IMSA merger, and obviously he just retired a couple of years ago. And I just wanted to go back to that 74 car one sec. Yeah. You mentioned that over 30. Glenn Van Berlo is in the car, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the father of Kai Van Berlo, which will be racing in one of the GTs coming up.
Cool. Okay, we'll keep that one in the back of our heads. That's a really, really good pickup there. So yeah, that's pretty wild. What other names stick out to you in this list? Anything that sticks out to you, Jeb? There's a few Canadian cars in this entry list.
Yeah, there is. Both the AWA cars. I've been a big fan of them. I kind of have to be a fan of the number 13, especially because it's got Ori Fidani, and he's part of the group that is a majority shareholder of Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So people who've been around the Discord will know I often make the joke, if the car doesn't win, we don't have enough money to fund the track. But no, he is a great guy. And I mean, the car can be quick. That's what I think I would say is the car can be quick. In terms of other names that stick out, obviously we've got, where is he? He disappeared. I can't find him on the list. Jared Andretti Autosport. He just sticks out because he's an Andretti.
Yeah.
Gabby Chavez. He went through the IndyCar ladder at some point. Those are really the only ones that are sticking out to me, though. I won't lie. I'm not the most well versed in the LMP3 lineups. I don't think anybody is.
Yeah.
But
it's very much...
those are just a couple.
Yeah, it's very much an amateur playground. A few names that stand out to me. Lars Kern in the number 13 car. At one point held the production car lap record around the Nürburgring Nordschleife. I'm pretty sure. In a GT2, a Porsche 911 GT2 RS.
I believe that was him, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting name. Thomas Merrill is another name that I've seen before. I don't know where I've seen it, but it's a name I've seen before.
IMSA LMP2.
Yeah.
He was one of the...
That's right, he was the dentist car.
Yep.
And then Tymon Vanderhelm is another name that I've seen before in IMSA LMP2 in the JDC Miller Motorsports car. So interesting that car has stepped down to LMP3.
Yep, they have an LMP3 program. They're also racing in the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. But this is basically just so they can keep racing until their Porsche 963s get sent.
Yeah. Now, before we get into predictions... Same conversation we had about LMP2. What is the point of LMP2 in IMSA? What is the point of LMP3 in IMSA? Especially when we've got field sizes this large, is there a school of thought which has merit to say that LMP3, much like in the WEC, should be relegated to a support event program as opposed to being in the main race?
Well, so here's the thing. Yes, that is actually a very valid argument. Now, we used to have Prototype Challenge. We no longer have it. We have the VP Sports Car Challenge. But what LMP3 being in WeatherTech allowed was you could directly transfer from Prototype Challenge to IMSA WeatherTech, and even better, quote-unquote better, depends on who you ask, you only ran the endurance races. So you had a lighter schedule. So basically what it allowed you to do is go Prototype Challenge, you buy your LMP3, you have fun. Yay. You run some IMSA races, they happen to be the endurance races. Then it becomes, all right, are you really serious? If you're really serious, you can either buy a GT3 or come race with us for the full season, or an LMP2. And I think it's very critical with LMP3 to be in that stepping stone, because the LMP3 is also a very good transition car to go from GTs to prototypes. It's about the same speed, but you have to drive it like a downforce car. That's what I think I think it serves a very important role of getting guys to go from more amateur-friendly GT3s into more pro-oriented prototypes.
That's a fair point and fair take. Kris, anything you wanted to add?
I'm on the opposite spectrum. I think next year it needs to be scrapped. We have too many entries, like we saw this year. I'm not the one to hang on to things that are dead. But I mean, KCMG isn't going to be in the GTD-Pro class, and that's obviously because they were only going to do Daytona, and what IMSA does is that they prioritize full season entries and then Michelin Endurance Cup entries, and then they just take anything else after that. So I'm not mad about that. It's just I know why LMP3 is on the grid for this year. So basically when they were fleshing out their plans for 2023. I would say it's safe to say that maybe they didn't have as much confidence as what the top class was going to be. And obviously, the point of LMP3 was it was a filler when the class sizes were a little down. So on top of that, plus teams are already making plans for 2023, and they want to make the plans. They want let people know here's what's happening early as possible, so teams aren't scrambling at the last minute. But starting from last year, or starting from next year, I think it should be scrapped. I think if they still want to race their LMP3s in IMSA, they can just go down to the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. That's just my opinion, because I think it takes away from other serious or not serious entries, because obviously people in the LMP3 class are
they're
some of them are
race.
good.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be a better product if we allowed some more of those maybe those GT entries and leave some room for those.
I'm gonna be on the fence. Here we go. We got one Jeb on one side, Kris on the other, and I'll be in the middle. I think the concern for me is congestion, and I don't mean in terms of scheduling. I mean like on track. So we've got 55 cars around Daytona, which is how big is Daytona? How big is the track? It's not the hugest track in the world.
The oval's 2.5 miles, so the road course is a little bit longer.
I believe the road course may be about 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers. So transfer that over to miles.
No, we're not. Miles? What is this stupid unit? We're talking. We're using metric here.
Kris.
We're using metric here. So the road course is 5.7 kilometers. So you're basically, each car gets 100 meters of track, and that's not a lot. That's not a lot of track for each car, especially at the speeds at Daytona. The concern for me is that when you get to that, there's a tipping point where there's too many cars, and I think if you take out LMP3, we might be on the safer side of that tipping point. But maybe with the 9 LMP3 cars, you're on the other side of that tipping point, and it might just become like, the first hour of the first 6 hours of the Spa 24 hours, where there's constant crashing because there's so much traffic. And with how IMSA does their cautions, the fact that you have these broadly, I'm going to generalize here. This is a broad sweeping generalization. Don't take it as specific about anyone, but broadly lower quality, slower, less confident drivers around this very high intensity professional race. You end up with incidents, and what I don't want to see is a lot of racing being given away to long caution periods because of incidences between LMP3 cars and other classes. We have seen that in the past. I think there was one year that Starworks took out the GTD leader with a PC car and then retired both of their cars because they were causing so many incidents. So I don't want to see that. But if they can get through a race, if a class this size and a race this size can get through a race without causing too many incidents, I'm okay with it being there, but I don't want to see it cause incidents. And as Kris said, there is the VIP challenge for these cars if they so there is a place for them to be racing. So it's a complicated thing. I think, Jeb, though, your point about being able to translate directly from the formal prototype challenge into WeatherTech and actually find your feet in that, I think that's a really, really good point. So that's not something I'd considered before. So yeah, good discussion. Now who's going to win?
I'll go first. I'm going to go with the 74. 74
Riley?
One.
Yeah, that's pretty safe bet. What about you, Jeb?
I don't know. LMP3 is always an interesting class because it actually is slower or faster than the GTs depending on what track you go to. I've looked at this.
And depending on who's driving the car at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even just in terms of just like pole position times, which I've compared, it is quite odd. In terms of LMP3s, though, like I said, I'm not 100% sure. Random number generator, 1 to 9, 7. I think the 74 Riley's going to win it. There you go.
Wow, look at that. I wonder how you got that one.
Wow. I actually do think they're going to win it. So yeah, there you go.
I'm also going to go to the 74, but I reckon the number 13 is going to be in the mix as well. They're my picks.
Yeah, it really sucks that if they don't win, we're going to have to shut Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
Yeah, that would be rough. I hope you're able to move closer to another track so you're able to marshal somewhere. That would be really rough for you.
And I just want to add one last note to LMP3. We have Till Bechtolsheimer in the 85 car. If you have heard the news or forgot about the news that happened 6 months ago, he is the new owner of Lola.
Huh, that's cool.
Oh, right. Yes.
There you go. What a weird collision of worlds. Well, I mean, it's not that weird because Lola is an American company, right?
Wasn't it? I thought it was British.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember old sports car brands. What are you talking about?
Unbelievable.
I only focus on new sports car brands, like the new cars racing in GTD-Pro. How's that for a transition? I bet you never saw that one coming. GTD-Pro, 9 cars, 8 different manufacturers. This is like an all-out gunfight, and it always has been. The pro classes in IMSA, whether that's been GT Le Mans or GTD-Pro, it's just been an absolute knife fight. We've got here Corvette, Porsche, Lexus, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Mercedes, and BMW, with a second Aston Martin just for fun. This is terrifying. This is actually terrifying. This is GTD racing on steroids here. I'm terrified. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. we almost need to go through these entries one by one just to sort of get an idea of what's going to happen here.
And then we get to add the BMW because one of the turn cars moved up as well.
Yes, the number 95 car, I think, is the one that's been moved up. That doesn't appear on the entry list on the IMSA website, but it does appear on Wikipedia at the moment. So if you missed the news, Turner stepped up. They were going to run 2 cars in GTD, but they did move one of those cars up to GTD-Pro. So that's exciting times in that one as well. Guys, where do we want to start? Because there's like, I think 4 or 5 different storylines just in the entries, not a lot, like not even thinking about what's going to happen in the race.
Why don't you just do it in numerical order?
Okay, let's do it in numerical order then. So we'll whiz through these pretty quickly, but we'll have a brief chat about each. Corvette here, the number 3 in the C8R GTD. So this is the GTE car that's been kind of downgraded to a GT3. Does it make sense? Who knows? It seems to work. Antonio Garcia, Tommy Milner, Jordan Taylor. No real surprises there. What do we think?
And just to add an extra note, and I believe this will be the last time this car will race the Rolex because next year it will be their GT3. They'll make their debut.
Cool. That's actually, so they're actually building a GT3 car. That's kind of awesome.
Yep.
Nice.
And the stars are going to align because that'll also be, I believe, the debut of the Mustang GT3 as well. So we already got a rivalry, and it's not even exactly a year until the Rolex.
I hate it. You're just copying what's happening in the Australian supercars with GM versus Mustang. Like we did it first. You guys suck it.
V8s at home.
V8s, yeah. Hey, our V8s look mean as anything. Shut up. Jeb, I'll let you introduce the next car, the number 9.
All right, so the number 9 is, of course, the iconic the plaid Porsche, the Pfaff Motors sports car. Let me tell you about this car. We got some big names in this. We got Klaus Bachler, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know who this guy is, but we got Patrick Pilet, who I could talk so much about him that I'm not going to say anything because he's good. And then we got Lawrence Vanthor, who is a god on wheels, and also, I believe, at the 2020 Spa 24 Hours, fell over on a scooter in the parking lot and hurt his arm. But this is, just Pfaff. They're Pfaff. They've won it back to back. They're Pfaff. I don't got to say anything about them. But they're not my pick. We're going to talk about this later.
Whoa! What? Bombshell. Also, how do you not know who Klaus Bachler is? He's like a Porsche factory driver.
Because I'm an idiot.
Okay, that's fair. Number 14, Vasser Sullivan Racing, the Lexus, of course, with an all-British lineup, which is very interesting to me. You've got Ben Barnicoat, who's one of the nicest guys ever going around. If you ever get a chance to talk to Ben Barnicoat, make sure you take it. Jack Hawksworth, who's been racing the Lexus in the Vasser Sullivan Racing for a while. And Mike Conway? What?
Yeah, this was kind of like maybe it wasn't like an out of left field moment because of the Toyota connection, because obviously Toyota and Lexus sister brands, or Toyota or Lexus is owned by Toyota. But yeah, this was interesting news to say the least. Obviously, I believe he in the past was racing with the Willen Engineering car.
Yep.
Obviously, that's not the case anymore. So now he's got himself a GTD-Pro drive. It'd be interesting to see how he fares in the GT machinery.
Yeah, when was the last time Conway... Pardon me. When was the last time Conway raced a GT car?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know.
I gotta go way back.
It'll probably be between his IndyCar stint and Toyota.
So here's something. Here's a bit of a technicality. What do we call it? So are you just talking like a non-prototype?
Well, no. Specifically a GT car, because I know the answer you're about to give me, and I think that's hilarious. If someone in the live chat right now could do a bit of research and find a GT car that Mike Conway has raced, because this may well be his GT debut, but Jeb spoiled the surprise for everyone. What were you about to say?
So his last time not driving a prototype was the 2012 Armor All Gold Coast 600 in a V8 supercar, of which I probably could not name a car that drives less like a prototype than a V8 supercar.
That is, like, so. I love that happened. You can find the 2012 races on YouTube. It's full of IndyCar prototype sports car, just, like, royalty that, like, me as a V8 supercar fan, I didn't know any of these people at the time. So, like, going back and watching those races now was like, holy crap, we had Mike Conway, we had Stefan Sarazan, we had Mika Salo, we had all these guys racing in this event. I had no idea who any of them are. Jerome Blakemole raced a supercar. It's ridiculous. And it's crazy to think that was already 10 years ago. So, yeah. Well,
he also had, I'm a swear there. Boris said.
Oh, my God.
The myth, the legend.
Oh, my
Boris
God.
said.
So
Alex Tagliani.
So Boris said in that race he made a complete mockery of the track limits during the down the beach chicane. What they had was these little like rubber bollards that stuck out up on the inside of the curb, and one of them broke off because he hit it so often. So because he could just because Boris said has no morals, he just took the piss and cut that chicane every single time for the rest of the race. Every time, straight over the top of it. It was an absolute farce, and that's the one thing I remember from Boris said in that race.
Oh, so maybe they should have called him on it.
That's true. Anyway, back to entry list. Number 23, Heart of Racing, Aston Martin. Ross Gunn, David Pittard, and Alex Riberas. Interesting mix of drivers. I want to say something very quickly about Ross Gunn. I found it hilarious. 3 years ago, I think it was the 2020 race, where he was making some comments about having to drive with AM drivers in the car and how difficult he was finding that because he wanted to go fast all the time. And then he crashed into the pit exit and, broke the car and they retired. So be careful when you run your mouth because you don't know when that's gonna, pardon me, come back and bite you. So, that's my lasting memory of Ross Gunn, in an Aston Martin at Daytona. So hopefully that doesn't happen again to him.
If I remember that correctly, did he not get hit by another car that was pitting, or did he straight up just bin it?
So it was on pit exit. It was on pit exit that
pit exit. Sorry, yeah. You said pit entry. I was thinking of the Roman.
My bad. No, yeah, it was on pit exit. He hit the wall. It was like the middle of the night, and it was freezing cold. And of course, he'd just gotten in on brand new tires, and yeah, just broke the suspension on the wall on the pit exit. It was hilarious.
Real IMSA fans, that's the real wall of champions, the Daytona Turn 1 pit exit wall. Really, like, Catherine Leggs hit it. How many, I want a stat of every champion that's hit that wall. Somebody pull that up.
We'll find it.
And two of these drivers, Ross Gunn and Alex Riberas, just got done racing the 24 Hours of Dubai with the Mercedes, actually, with the Heart of Racing branding slapped all over that, and obviously the car was ran by SPS Automotive Performance. So two of these guys already got a 24-hour race under their belt.
There you go. That's if you want a warm up, that's perfectly, that'll be perfectly warm. And funnily enough, a comparable amount of night hours to Daytona as well, which is very, very important because I think Daytona has the most night running out of any 24-hour race. Because I
remember hearing on the comms for Dubai that it's actually pretty even this year.
Yeah, because
it's quite equal.
Because Dubai's closer to the winter equinox, the winter solstice, but it is slightly further south, so it has less of a change in nighttime because of it. So they're basically, it's more night running than day running, which is kind of nuts. We'll leave that one there. This next car, is a very exciting car. If I'm correct, the debut of the Ferrari 296 GT3. Rizzi Competizione, love to see Rizzi back in the field. They're bringing along a all-star Ferrari driver lineup here. James Collado, Alessandro Piagrini, Davide Rigon, and Daniel Serra. This is a big story. The first non-4-something car for Ferrari in, decades.
And the crazy thing about this lineup, if you didn't have any information on what the car is or what class they're doing, if you just named off the list of drivers, like, oh yeah, they're racing in this car, you could possibly say, oh yeah, that's the hypercar lineup. That's how good this lineup is.
It's terrifying, isn't it? And if you want to entrust your brand new car to a group of drivers, why not the drivers that literally limped a car home to win a championship not 3 months ago?
Yeah, that's right. Wait, didn't Petit Le Mans, didn't Reese? I can't remember if which way it went, but there was like a post-race penalty in GTD-Pro that either left Reese with the win or left him without the win. I can't remember which one was which.
Reese was handed a back of the class or whatever penalty.
Oh, right, that's right.
Because they went over the drive time.
Naughty. And according to Johan in the live chat, they still won the endurance challenge, or the endurance cup, despite the penalty. So, how good is it?
That's what I was thinking.
How good is it to have Reese back on the grid in a proper way? Like, this is so nice.
I also will say, while not being the biggest Ferrari guy myself, the car is looking good. It seems like it's running good. And I genuinely could not name 4 better Ferrari drivers to start the car. This is the perfect lineup for Reese. I could not name anything better.
Absolutely right. And from one Ferrari team, one long-time Ferrari team, to a team that's just defected from Ferrari, the number 63 Iron Lynx now to Lamborghini as in preparation, as part of their deal with Lamborghini to be the hypercar team in 2024. Iron Lynx making their debut. I'm pretty sure it's also their debut in a Lamborghini. Mirko Bortolotti, Andrea Caldarelli, Romain Grosjean, and Jordan Pepper in that car, which is an interesting name as a refugee from formerly the Bentley program, and now I'm not sure if Pepper had run Lamborghinis recently, but that's what an interesting list of drivers.
Yeah, Romain Grosjean, he loves America. For anyone who doesn't know that reference, during IndyCar, I think it was 2021, when he first basically arrived in the series, NBC did the whole spiel, did the whole storylines, oh, look at Roman, he's going around the country with his camper, going whatever, and he loves America. And they just made it, and that's the whole meme. So if you're in one of the race chats and if you say oh yeah, Roman loves America, he might love America, but just know it's a meme.
Yeah.
NBC typed it so much.
I've just been reliably informed that Jordan Pepper won everything with K-Pax, which makes sense. So that makes sense as to why he's in a Iron Lynx Lamborghini. And how cool, Iron Lynx, they've stolen all of the biggest names from all of the other Lamborghini programs and put them in one car. And also Romain Grosjean.
I mean, an incredible scouting job from the Iron Lynx team.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. Mirko Bortolotti, Andrea Caldarelli. Wasn't Andrea Caldarelli Mr. FFF Racing, which is now dead?
Yeah. And that was the monkey's paw that I was going to bring up. It's awesome to see Iron Lynx step up. Well, not step up, but kind of like a lateral move to just Ferrari to Lamborghini. And obviously going towards the hypercar program with Caldarelli being the main guy, or not the main guy, but one of the guys behind it. Now a factor driver. That plus maybe the Chinese money that was coming in through that team not being as such there anymore, that caused the death of Triple F Racing Team, which was announced a day or two ago.
Yeah, so sad times. But on the other hand, we will have a spankingly yellow Lamborghini and quite possibly a bright pink one as well. We'll talk a bit about that later on. TF Sport with TGM is the next car on the entry list, number 64. We've gone 62, 63, 64, which is quite interesting. They're also in an Aston Martin, of course, because it's TF Sport, and with an entirely, pardon me, American-based driver lineup of names that I have no idea about. We have Ted Giovannis, Hugh Plum, Matt Plum, and Owen Trinkler. Kris, help.
Right, so this particular car made a lot of people angry because they're why is this car in, but not KCMG? Understandable question. All right, just to clear the air, the reason this entry got the nod instead of KCMG, yes, they are, as of right now, only running a one-off in this championship, but they are full-time entries in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. And so since KCMG doesn't do anything else with IMSA, this is why TGM got the nod instead. It's basically just oh, you've been a customer for us for so many years, we'll allow this for you. Okay,
That's being said, that's the series showing loyalty. Like I'm nonplussed by that.
And then the driver lineup is pretty much just copy and paste the Michelin Pilot Challenge. You would just see these guys in their cars. Ted Giovannis is kind of like the old guy. He is some would regard he's not exactly the best driver out there. But then you got the Plums, which have been racing with Pilot Challenge for years, and Owen Trinkler, who have been obviously doing that as well. And they're relatively good. They're relatively fine drivers. Probably not the same caliber that some of the drivers we've seen in this class.
Yeah,
but they're competent.
So
Ted Giovannis, that's a question mark, but we'll have to wait and see.
So why are they in Pro?
Because the rules in GTD-Pro state that you can just enter.
Oh.
There's no, it's a free for all driver lineup. You don't need to be like, oh, you have to be a gold or a platinum. It's basically like any team from GTD can enter GTD-Pro. Like that's how loose the rules are.
So we've got here a pair of bronze drivers and a pair of silver drivers going up against teams that are literally quad platinum. So, temper your expectations if you're a fan of the Plums.
Yep. That's the reason why. It's the driver lineup is, and obviously GTD-Pro and GTD are the same regulation of cars. Actually, BOP together. I think we forgot to mention about that. So, like, during the races, if you see just, like, a timing is green, it will definitely be hand because there's so many interclass battles that goes on. And if the caution comes out just right, sometimes, like, the GTDs, just on, like, pit stops, all the GTDs will be ahead of the GTD-Pro cars, like we saw at Petit Le Mans. It really adds for an interesting new thing to watch towards the race.
Nice. Two more cars in GTD-Pro. Sorry, Jeb, but we gotta keep moving because otherwise we're gonna run out of time to talk about the 24 car GTD class.
We got a lot of guys left.
We've got a lot of guys left. Yeah, it's a lot. Number 79, the WeatherTech racing car, everyone's favorite. On the entry list for the Raw, it has only Cooper McNeil confirmed, which is unsurprising because it's a WeatherTech car. But on Wikipedia, it's got here listed as well Daniel Yucandela, Jules Gounon, and Mauro Angel, which is a pretty cool trio of Mercedes drivers. I'm excited for that car, except for when McNeil's in it, which I think is. And
this, sorry to cut you off there, Flo. I was going to say that this is rumored. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet. It might have. This is Cooper McNeil's last race.
Ooh.
He's going to focus on the business side of things, and it's going to be. I can't remember which of the two are full season. But basically, one of the two drivers, the two of the three pro drivers you see listed there, they're going to be full season, and obviously the rest of them are MEC without the handling of Cooper.
That's a surprise. I'm gonna miss ripping into Cooper. Oh well, I mean, hopefully he goes out on a high. I guess. I mean, if he's driving with Engel, Gounon, and Nucadella, like the only other Mercedes driver I can think that's of that caliber is Marciello, who doesn't even race Mercedes anymore.
Yes, he does. Does he?
Well, I mean, he's not racing Mercedes in this race because he's racing an LMP2.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. He's.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say he still does Mercedes. He just not doing it here.
Not doing it here. Last car. This is the car that we made mention at the very beginning. Has moved up from GTD to GTD-Pro. So that's been a late change. So it's not reflected on the IMSA entry list, but it is reflected on, say, Wikipedia. BMW M Team Turner. So this has also caused a livery change. They've gone from their yellow and blue to BMW colors. I believe, I may not be correct in saying this, I believe this is the American debut of the M4. Is that correct?
No.
No? Okay. Don't listen to me, I'm a filthy one liar.
Yeah. They raced them, they actually got a win last year at Long Beach with Paul Miller Racing.
There you go. So yeah, don't listen to me, I make things up. Interesting mix of drivers. Bill Auberlen returning to the pro class for like the first time in forever. With John Edwards, Chandler Hull, and Bruno Spengler. Chandler Hull is not a name I'm familiar with. Anyone able to shed some light?
I believe he was running with the Bimmer World team at races M4 GT3s and GT World Challenge America. And if I remember correctly, he last year when Bimmer World was testing their M4 GT3 at VIR, he literally one of the first laps he rode off the chassis.
Oh no!
He obviously improved since then. But yeah, Chandler Hall is one of the up and coming guys in the American sports car scene.
Cool. Yeah, it seems that they had to move to GTD-Pro because of the late addition of Bruno Spengler, which put them out of the driver lineup window for GTD. Well, I want to say GTD-M, but it is just GTD. So how do you think Bill Aublin's going to go? It's been a long time since he's raced in a pro car.
I think he'll go fine. Yeah, he
still has it.
I know it's not as a caliber field, but Michelin. If you watch any of the Michelin Palette Challenge races when he's in the car, it shows that he can clearly still drive a race car.
Yeah, the last time Bill Aublin took a pro win in GT Le Mans was in 2017. With the M6 GTLM, so not even the M8, it was the M6. So that's how long ago we're talking here. But he is, I think, still the class winningest driver in Grand Am / whatever IMSA wants to call their series history.
Bill Auberlin is still IMSA's winningest driver.
Yeah, so
he has the most wins.
The most winningest, the winningest. So 9 cars, probably 8 actual cars in GTD-Pro. Where is our money? Who's gonna win? Is anyone gonna be brave?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Faf.
Faf? I think that's a pretty safe bet. Backler, Pile, and Vantor in a Porsche as the reigning champions. Jeb, you hinted earlier that you weren't going to go Faf, so please enlighten us as to why you're betraying your country.
Yeah, I'm going to come out and say this. I think Faf will win Sebring. I think they'll win Mid-Ohio. I think they'll win Long Beach. I think they'll win Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I think they'll win every other race of the season. However, Corvette Racing is going to win the Rolex 24.
How dare you?
In class, I want to clarify.
Yeah.
They're going to win in class.
You know,
not 2001.
No, it's not. What makes you say that?
I really like Corvettes.
you know, Jeb, I hate to be that guy, but just to clarify, actually, there's no Mid-Ohio in the calendar anymore. It's being replaced by Indianapolis.
Oh.
He just got dunked on. Jeb, you just got dunked on.
This is what the media won't tell you.
The media won't tell you about Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to say Porsche, I want to say Faf, but I look at the Risi lineup and I look at the Risi lineup. That's what I do. Even though it's a brand new car, I can't help but think that they're going to hit the ground running. But of course, it's a Ferrari, so it's like a 50-50 chance it is perfect or it just explodes into a fireball. I don't know. It's what I can say though is it's going to be an awesome race. Like with the way that IMSA does their cautions, with the driving quality of the field, there is no way that this race doesn't go down to like the final few minutes in GTD-Pro.
Yeah, that's normally how it goes, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's going to be an absolute madhouse. Okay, everyone ready for this? We have 24 cars left on the entry list. We've already been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. We are going to do our very best to keep this to less than half an hour of additional runtime. So that means we've got about a minute to talk about each car and then wrap up everything at the end. So we're gonna have to speed run this. If you are listening along, make sure that you are following along with either a spotter's guide, an entry list, or on Wikipedia, because this is going to be quick. We have 24 cars. That is basically a full grid in most other series. That is a full grid of V8 supercars. This is just a subclass in the Daytona 24 hour. In this class, you are required to have 2 silver rated drivers, so 2 amateur drivers, and then the other 2 drivers are free. So we're going to be focusing a lot on the amateur drivers here. There is a big American representation in this field. You have Triassi Motor Competizione in the brand new Ferrari. You have Paul Miller Racing, Avassa Sullivan Racing. You have Heart of Racing, Team Korthoff Motorsports, NTE Sport, Magnus Racing Return, MDK Motorsports, Windward Racing, Gradient Racing, Volt Racing, who I don't believe have raced in GTD before, step up. Racetronics, AO Racing Team, Kelly Moss Road Racing with 2 cars. Wayne, is that WTR is in Wayne Taylor Racing? Acura. Yes, that is. And Turner Motorsport. They are your American teams. That's a big American representation. But you also have a heap of international flair on top, particularly from Italians, which is surprising to me a little bit. Iron Lynx is here. AF Corsa, Settler Racing are returning with a brand new Ferrari as well. Iron Dames in a pink Lamborghini, which is going to look so hot. And then Inception Racing with a McLaren are on the grid. Sun Energy Run, Kenny Habul is on the grid with a Mercedes. It is going to be terrifying in this class. It's going to be a random number generator sort of day. You know the deal. This is how we do GTD racing. Where do we want to start? Do we want to go through each car one by one, or do we just want to pick names out of a hat and see where we go? Because there's a lot of names I recognize and a lot of names I don't.
We can go one by one, but we'll make it quick. I'll start off with Triarsi Competizione. They showed up out of last year out there in GT World Challenge America, starting at Sebring, and then obviously got Alessio Rovera and Andrea Bertolini as like the guys who normally race Ferraris, and then the other 2, Charles Scardini and Ondanto Triarsi, are your AM drivers.
Yeah. They sound like very Italian names, so it doesn't surprise me at all that they've gone with a very Italian car and a Ferrari. Paul Miller Racing is the first of the BMWs on the grid, car that we're very familiar with in IMSA. Corey Lewis, Brian Sellers, Madison Snow in that car again, and Maxime Martin. Now, is Madison Snow still a pro driver? No, he's not. So that's actually really, really good for the number 1.
Yep, still silver after all this time.
Jeb, do you want to do the next one? We'll just each get a car going.
Perfect, yeah. Number 12, Vassar Sullivan. We got Aaron Tellitz, Frankie Montecalvo, Kyle Kirkwood, and Parker Thompson. A pretty strong lineup. None of these guys are new to IMSA, so I think a pretty solid contingent.
I've not heard of Parker Thompson. Do you want to just shed a little bit of light on him, seeing as he's got a Canadian flag, or is that too much to ask?
I believe he is a prototype challenge champion, Chris. Am I wrong? Am I thinking of the wrong Parker Thompson?
He might have, but he also did Porsche Carrera Cup North America.
Cool. Kris, take us through the next one.
Yeah, you have Wright Motorsports with, I'm just going down the Wikipedia entry list here with 2 entries. 1 to 16 car is going to be in that classic light blue livery with Ryan Hardwick, John Halen, Dennis Olsen, who's been racing in DTM with SSR Performance last year, and Zachary Robichon, which was with the FAF team last year. And then you got the 77 car, which is the Volt Lightning highlighter yellow livery, who's making the jump up from the GT4 in Michelin Pilot Challenge. You got Alan, Norwegian last name, not going to pronounce that. Kevin Estra, Trent Heidemann, and Maxwell Root.
Alan Brynjolfsson. We need Norwegian petrolhead in here to help us out. Kevin Estra? What? In a highlighter green car, Kevin Estra? This is going to be hilarious.
Yeah, it's the car, like you said, it's Volt Lightning, very, very, you won't miss it on track, that's for sure, but being ran by Wright Motorsports, and then you got Trent Heidemann, who has been racing with the Allen all these years, Volt, and then you got the Maxwell Root, who is just an up-and-coming Porsche guy from America.
Quick question, I may have passed over this, but is this the debut of the 992 spec GT3 for Porsche?
I guess you could say officially, but they did race it a couple times last year.
Okay.
In NLS with, I believe, Manti, Dynamic, and Falcon Motorsport.
Okay, cool. I just had missed that the 992 was actually racing, so yeah. Cool pair of lineups. I think the number 16 is probably a little stronger, but is even thing. Iron Lynx are bringing 2 cars. One of course the Iron Lynx, the other is the Iron Dames. We've got both in Huracans, of course, Lamborghinis, now that they've made the switch. The number 19 has Raffaele Gianmaria, Rolf Nijken, Frank Pereira, and Claudio Schiavone, which is a pretty normal IMSA lineup for the Lamborghinis. I think we've seen Rolf Nijken and Frank Pereira racing together quite a while now in Lamborghinis.
In sprint series, and then like the other half is like a normal ELMS Michelin Mach Cup. Like you would see that there.
Exactly. Now, of course, the next one, the 83 is a fan favorite car, the Iron Dames, all female lineup. They took a first victory in the ELMS last season, which was amazing, in a hot pink Lamborghini, because you know if it's a Lamborghini, it's got to be loud colours. Sarah Bovey, Rahel Frey, Michelle Gatting, Dorian Pin. That is going to be a really, really cool car to follow. And, like, they've got a legit chance at a race victory as well.
I was going to say, I will just say, sorry to change the subject, before we get made fun of, Parker Thompson is the defending Porsche Cup North America champion.
Okay.
Yep.
So, bit of a big deal.
Yep, so he was racing a lot in Porsche Cups, that's how I remember him.
He's also the Formula 1600 Super Series Canada champion from 2017.
We've already got a niche motorsport guy, Jeb. Stop trying to fill that.
Unbelievable.
Iron Dames, do they have a legit chance at a race victory?
Maybe.
It is GTD, so anything's possible.
Yeah, it's just all going to come down to how the race shapes up. I mean, it really depends on your first few hours, because obviously in the class, especially with being BOP the same as the GTD-Pro guys as well. I don't know. It's too tough to make a call right now.
Yeah. Jeb, you're next up.
Who's next? I'm sorry, you guys are going in a different order than I am. Of course. Oh yeah, you've heard of these guys. If I'm going to be honest, don't know much about this car. Do you want to take it?
Okay, sure. This is a number 21 car. These are also in the 296. All the Ferraris in the 296. Francesco Castellacci, Simon Mann, Luis Perez Compagnac, and Tony Vilander. So Vilander we know as a Ferrari factory driver forever. Compagnac and, Castellacci we would have seen in WC competition. Simon Mann, I'm not too sure about, pardon me, but Compagnac I've seen a bunch of different times in a bunch of different series, so I'm pretty confident with that car actually. Not too many complaints in that one.
I see. It's gonna be interesting how this one. And I believe this car's gonna have more of a blue livery on it as well, the classic like AF course livery design. So that'll be fun. Nice to see on track as well.
Yeah, and just a sidebar, Simon Mann in that car was racing at Le Mans last year in the number 21 AF Corsa car. So, if you're racing at Le Mans, you must be doing something right. Kris, you're up next.
Alright, so next up we have the Heart of Racing team with their GTD entry. We have Roman DeAngelis, Ian James, Marco Sorensen, and Darren Turner. Roman DeAngelis and Ian James, I believe, maybe not Roman DeAngelis, but Ian James was also at the 24 hours at Dubai, just this past weekend.
That car is stronger than the GTD-Pro car. Like, am I wrong?
You know what? Honestly, I would agree with you there.
Oh, sorry.
There are four very solid drivers in it.
It's stronger than the TF Sport car, not the other Heart of Racing car, because the other Heart of Racing car has David Pittard, Ross Gunn, and Alex Riberas in it. So, but still, it's still a strong car.
I think your first statement might have been right, honestly.
Don't say that. That scares me.
I'm just being honest.
Number 32, Team Korthoff Motorsports has in the Mercedes has Maximilian Gotz, Michael Grenier, Kenton Koch, and Mike Skeen. Now, Maximilian Gotz is the first name that I recognize that has been confirmed to be doing the Daytona Bathurst double. He's racing in the Super Jeep Auto 888 Race Engineering Mercedes at Bathurst. Not too sure on the other names in that car. So, is this a team that's been racing IMSA for a while?
Okay, fine. Hold on, but buckle your seatbelts, boys.
What have I done?
This time last year, this team was like Gilbert Korthoff Motorsport, and they had Guy Cosmo in the car, right? As one of our lineups. Anyway, they did the whole qualifying race, they did the whole song and dance, and then, literally, the couple of days after, Guy Cosmo gets released from the driver lineup. And from what the story tell, is that one of the team owners was angry, obviously at the guy, he's not there anymore, was angry at Guy Cosmo because he lost positions during his pit stop. and he was like, "Oh, that's not good performance." And keep in mind, this is the Mercedes is like liveried like the old Petronas F1 cars. So I guess it's got like the teal blue kind of little thing going on it, and like the gray. So that was like the history of this car, and it kind of became a whole little meme, a little drama from last year. But now, ever since then, it's just Korthoff, the guy behind the team now. They actually were contenders for the actual GTD championship last year. And Mikhail Grenier, he usually races in either like he races in Mercedes. I know he did the Sun Energy 1 cars in the past.
Yep.
SPS guys. And you got Kenton Cook, who raced, I believe, Prototype Challenge, the series. And then Mike Skeen, who is he's just kind of like the American driver. He kind of pops in randomly. He did GTs a lot during the ALMS Grand Am days, and he's kind of like, you know, he's a reliable filler in case they don't have anything else.
There you go. You're up next, Jeb. It's okay if you don't know who they are. I don't either.
Cool. We've got the iconic NTE Sport entry. I mean, just a star-studded lineup. We got Don Yunt, Jaden Conwright, Karong Lee, and Alessio Delita. Sorry, I got a really small screen. Deleta?
Deleta would be right.
I have no idea who any of these people are.
So many things about this lineup. I don't even know where to start.
Right. So NTE Sport, if you're following on IMSA Racing on the subreddit, they actually have been posting their experiences with dealing with putting on the new EVA 2 kit for and they've been posting on IMSA Racing for a couple weeks now, so you won't have to go scroll down far to find their posts. Definitely worth a post. Some very awesome pictures. Jaden Conwright, I believe, is one of the winners, or at least he was one of the nominees for the IMSA Driver Diversity Scholarship. And so he's been kind of on the up and coming. Alessio Deleta was just a bad driver in DTM for Grasser. And Karan Lee, I believe he's on. It shows him as Chinese, but I think I remember him in the North American racing scene a bit. And they got Don Yount, which is kind of like the money man for the team. And I don't know, not exactly the caliber of racing driver you would like.
Yeah, pretty much. Kris, you're up next.
Right. So we got the next up on the list, we got the Magnus racing car, which if you haven't seen the livery this year, it looks fantastic. They got Flexbox back in the car.
Hey!
You know, any back racing history. That's huge. They are still with the Aston this year. We got Andy Lally, John Potters, and Spencer Pompelli. This is kind of like the standard for that lineup. And then we got Nicky Team, who's still kicking.
I love that Magnus Racing just have like their 3 regular dudes and then just like one of the most ridiculous guys. Like they always get someone who's just like out of this world. Like they've had Rene Rast, they've had Marcus Winkelhock, and now they got Nicky Team, which is crazy.
And basically watch out for their social media. They'll post like normally what they do is they make like a movie poster, like a parody movie poster for the actual event, and it's not up officially anymore, but they also have that Lego short they did in 2016.
Yes.
So if you find that, it's well worth the watch.
I've got that saved somewhere because every single time it gets posted, it gets pulled down because of the unauthorized use of Lego. So yeah, it's a classic. And the only reason they got pulled down is because it got so much attention because they won that year.
Right.
So that was the problem. Next up in the entry is Settler Racing, number 47, which is going to be in another blue Ferrari. It's going to be amazing. Pretty standard lineup. Alessandro Balzan, Antonio Fuoco, plus Roberto Lacorte and Giorgio Sonagiotto. So standard lineup if you've seen them race in LMP2 in the past or in the past in GTs. This is exactly what you would expect from that team. And an exciting team to boot. They're very passionate Italian men, and I love it. MDK Motorsports, Jeb, go for it.
MDK Motorsports, they've got, well, I lost them on the list.
53.
I'm just kidding.
I believe in you.
Yeah, they're 53. Hey, they're running a Porsche. They got, so Mark, is it Kavam? Sorry. Yeah. Mark Vam. He's there. Trenton Estep, who anybody who's watched IMSA racing in general is probably familiar with him. And more importantly, Jan Magnussen, ALMS/Grand Am/ 2D United Sports Car Championship / IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship he's basically made a home here, so it's nice to see Jan back. I believe that was the car that K-Mag's also in, too, right? He's not showing up on the IMSA list.
Right, about Kevin Magnussen. So, yes, Kevin Magnussen is scheduled to be on the list. They obviously, basically, separating S-Step from the driver lineup, those three, Vom and the Magnussen's race at the Gulf 12 Hours together in a Ferrari ran by AF Corsa. So they already have some sort of chemistry together. But Kevin Magnussen apparently has some sort of hand injury or something to do with his hand. So he is listed as questionable. So he might not even, unfortunately, be able to race with his father at the Rolex. So we'll keep an eye on that. But as of right now, Kevin Magnussen is still listed, but keep in mind that can change and he might not be.
I recall this now. I think it's actually he's going for surgery on his hand, if I remember correctly.
That sounds really serious.
Yeah.
I don't think it's big. I think it's sustaining or from a previous injury. It's just obviously if you were going through surgery, you cannot also be driving a race car.
Yeah, this is true. So hopefully we'll see the Magnussens on track together. That would be nice and fun. But that car, well, it remains to be seen what sort of other driver they'll be able to get to fill that slot if K-Mag can't be in it. That's another current F1 driver in the field, which is kind of terrifying. Kris, next.
Right, so we have Windward Racing, who has been kind of making their status known around the world with DTM teams. You got Lucas Auer and Philip Ellis parting the DTM lineup for that car. And then they also have Indy Donche, who was kind of making a resurgence back in GT racing after quite a hiatus back. Nice to see him come back for GTs after quite a hiatus after a couple of years. I think he may have did some last year as well. And they got Russell Ward, who is the money man behind the team.
Yep. That's, yeah. Anything else really exciting behind that? I mean, Indy Donche is quite a known name, but he's not been around for a while at the top level.
Philip Ellis and Lucas Auer are DTM guys, who expect them to be aggressive.
That's just saying that you expect them to be touring car drivers, right?
Correct.
DTM is the most expensive touring car racing. Next up on the list, Gradient Racing, number 66, in the Acura, which is the first Acura on the list, in the Evo 22, which is interesting. I didn't know that they were still doing Evos for the Acura. But anyway, this is a pretty cool car. Mario Fanbacher and Catherine Legg are in this car. So I haven't seen Catherine Legg driving anything for a little while, so I'm excited to see her, along with Mark Miller and Sheena Monk, which is a name that I'm not familiar with. Who is Sheena Monk?
So Sheena Monk, she has been racing in Michelin Palette Challenge with, I can't remember her co-driver's name, but she races with the J.G. Wentworth livery, which if you live in the States, you'll know the commercials. You know, I need money and I need cash now. Those ones. It's kind of like in this green and white car. It looks very good. But another important thing to note is that this is only for Daytona or the male drivers in the car, or I guess for the endurance events, because full season it's going to be Sheena Monk and Catherine Legg for an all-woman driver lineup.
And that's cool. I love to see female driver development, so I'm happy to see that, and I hope they do well. Jeb, next up.
All right, up next we've got the Inception Racing cars, the number 70. I believe the only McLaren in the field, unless I'm wrong.
That is correct.
I am correct. The only McLaren in the field. It's got Brendan Arieb, Frederick Schandorf, Ali Milroy, and Marvin Kirchhofer. Is it Kirchhofer? Kirchhofer. Yes. Let's check. I mean, Inception's been around for a while. They've consistently performed decent, sometimes good, sometimes bad. By all means, not a bad pick, and I'm interested to see how the McLaren does this year, see how they got it sorted out. The McLaren's not as popular of a car as I would like it to be in GT racing.
It is a bit boutique in that respect, isn't it?
Yeah, I that's why I kind of hope they do well for the novelty factor. I also just straight up, I just like orange, so I hope the car does well. But yeah, we need to see the McLaren do well.
And the McLaren has had a reputation for being a bit of a hard car to drive as well. The setup window's kind of hard to get, but when it is in the setup window, it is a terrifying machine. They were in the mix to win they did win a Le Mans invite, Inception Motorsport, through the Asian Le Mans series a few seasons ago. So, expect them to be quick. Certainly a team to keep an eye on. Kris, you get to do one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, Sun Energy One Racing, who were a last-minute addition in the race after the IMSA officials initially announcing only a 60-car grid. Then they're like, oh, we got space for what we had last year, which was 61. Let's add the next guys on the reserve list. So this will include Kenny Abul, Axel Jeffries, and Fabian Schiller. And unfortunately, on the entry list, it says Willpower, but we just had breaking news while we were recording this, and Willpower is not going to be racing just to the fact he's going to take care of his wife who's sick, which is very understandable. We hope his wife gets well soon. And a replacement has not been named at this time. So as of right now, the only 3 drivers in that car are Habul, Jeffries, and Schiller.
And that's a bit of a big miss because Willpower was one of the star drivers in that car. But, I mean, I'm sure they'll find someone competent is going to be putting it mildly. Very competent to fill in that seat. Habul has a habit of finding some great Mercedes drivers to drive with him. But he himself is a great driver, and Axel Jeffries as is the second AM in that car is not a name to shirk at either. So add Fabian Schiller and then another professional driver, which I'm sure anyone who drives a Mercedes professionally is on the phone to Kenny Habul saying, "Hey mate, you wanna hook me up?" So it might even be someone from down under. It might even be someone like a Jamie Whincup or a Shane Van Gisbergen because of their ties through the Triple Eight race engineering last year at the Bathurst 12 Hour. So I'm excited for that car, and Kenny Habul is such a character as well. So the inaugural bronze driver winner of the IGTC, by the way, Kenny Habul, for a little bit of trivia.
I was going to say overall Bathurst 12-hour winner last year as well.
Last year, yes. I had the pleasure of interviewing him in the garage after he won the race. And let me tell you, I took a picture of the garage afterwards. It smelt like race fuel and champagne. And that particular combination is something that's never going to leave my brain. We've already talked about, pardon me, we've already talked about Volt Racing with Wright Motorsports. I'll move on next to the US, the US Racetronics team, which is a team that I have absolutely no familiarity with. But it does have Misha Glockberg behind the wheel. So, a driver that we know has some quality at least. It also has Loris Spinelli, Benja Heights, and Marco Mappelli, which is a little surprising. I did not expect to see a driver of that caliber in a car I knew nothing about. But that's a cool, like, decently fielded car. Who is US Racetronics?
So they run a team in Super Trofeo in North America. That's why you see Spinelli there. He raced with them in that support. And then believe he also raced with them because they ran a Mercedes last year in GT World Challenge America, and I remember seeing that name there as well. I believe they might have won a race or two in that championship. And this livery is going to have, but it basically is going to have green and with Aero sponsorship on the car, so it'll be a good looker, that's for sure.
Absolutely right. You're up. Pardon me. You're up next, Jeb.
Alrighty. Up next, we have my new favorite GTD team, AO Racing, because they've got a interesting lineup. So first of all, PJ, I think it's Hyatt or Hiet. I'm sorry, might not be pronouncing it correctly. Seb Prio, Gunnar Jeanette, and Harry Ticknell. Which, let me tell you what, if there's ever been a car I've been hyped for, it's this car. PJ Hyatt, let's call him PJ Hyatt. So he's the co-founder of GitHub, so he's the money guy. He's the money guy, but that's just a funny statistic.
Like, how funny is it that, like, the dude who's founded GitHub
is in this car?
That's ridiculous. It's like how crazy that, like, David Hennemeyer Hansen, who invented Ruby on Rails, is an LMP2 driver. Like, that's so weird.
So, PJ Hitt founded GitHub, Gunnar Jeanette, ALMS legend, Seb Prio, everything legend, Harry Ticknell, former Mazda driver. This car has everything I love written over it, and it's also got an interesting AM. I honestly think this is my new favorite GTD.
I'm happy that you found this. By the way, are you sure you're talking about Seb Prio, who is the son of Andy Prio, not Andy Prio, who's won everything?
Right. Well, listen, he's cool too.
He's not a legend yet, but he could be.
I might have forgot who was the father and who was the son.
That's in a Porsche as well. You might have just turned me onto that car as well. You've done a very convincing job. Interesting that you've got Seb Priaulx paired with Harry Ticknell again, because they were driving in the one of the Proton cars last year at Le Mans with Christian Reed, the number 77. So it's cool to see them. Clearly, there is some sort of driver coaching program going on between Priaulx and Ticknell, because that can't be a coincidence.
I think Harry Ticknell might be like a driver coach or something. That could make a lot of sense to me personally.
Yeah.
I know Priaulx has been in the North American racing scene ever since he kind of ditched from, I believe, British F4. And he's kind of been, he ran Carrera Cup North America in 2021. Maybe he did. I can't remember what he did in last year. But he was definitely racing in the States, and now he's got himself a main IMSA drive.
Yeah. Kris, we've got 3 minutes left before we hit half an hour on GTD. Let's go. We've got three minutes left, 3 teams left.
All right, so we got Kelly Moss with Riley. Kelly Moss is a Porsche Cup team from Wisconsin. Go Cheese. They got 2 cars. I believe one of them, I got the article pulled up here. One of them is going to be only in Michelin Endurance Cup. Oh, yep, the 92 is going to be endurance only. That's going to be your own Bleekemolen, Nick Boole, Andrew Davis, Alec Udell. Then you got the 91, I believe the full season. You got Julian Andlauer, Kai Van Berlo, Jackson Evans, and Alan Metney.
I'm excited for Jackson Evans. That makes me excited.
You want to just run down the last 2 real quick?
I mean, I can do the 93, because that one's Wayne Taylor Racing, so it's an Acura, with Ryan Briscoe, the formerly Australian, now American Ryan Briscoe. Daniel Formal, who I think, is that a Costa Rican flagged driver there? Not a name you see, not a flag you see on a lot of drivers. Ashton Harrison and Kyle Marcelli, which is a name that I recognize from Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Yeah.
Yep. Marcelli races in Pilot Challenge, like you said, and Ashton Harrison is actually the female driver on that crew.
Cool. Ashton is a gender ambiguous name, so that's, yeah. I did not recognize that at the time. Finish us off, Jeb.
Alrighty. It's Turner Motorsports. I keep forgetting that their number's so far down the list. Patrick Gallagher, Robbie Foley, Michael, was it Dinan? I never remember how to get his last name. Dinan? Mike, whatever. And Jens Klingman. They're Turner. They're going to be good.
This is true.
They're going to be good. It's Turner. It's Robbie Foley. He's one of the Turner drivers, but he's still good. He's not Bill, but he's still good. Still good. It's a pretty solid lineup. I mean, they're Turner. It's Turner, it's Daytona, you know.
And the thing that always strikes me about Turner is that they're a well-run operation. Like, their cars never seem to be the most flashy in terms of their driver lineup, but they always seem to be in the mix, and that's because their team is good. And that's something that I think gets lost a bit when we look at these entry lists, is that it's not just about the drivers, it's about the teams, and Turner is a good team. So that's 24 cars, and we did that in 31 minutes. So I think that's a pretty good strike rate. Now the question is, who is going to win?
Good. I think it's gonna be.
I'll give you two supplementaries as well. So pick a podium in GTD.
All right. So I think that it's gonna be the 16 for the win,
and that's the Wright Motorsports, Hardwick, Halen, Olsen, and Robichon car. That's a good lineup.
The 12 and then the 20 to 27.
So 12 is Vassar Sullivan in the Lexus with Kirkwood, Montecalvo, Tielitz, and Thompson. And the 27 is the Heart of Racing team, the car that's almost as good as a GTD-Pro car in the Aston Martin. Roman DeAngelis, Ian James, Marco Sorensen, and Darren Turner. Yeah, we've got Johan in the live chat saying the 27 is basically a GTD-Pro team. Yeah, it is. It's weird.
I said it earlier.
Yeah. Would you pick that for a race win then, Jeb?
I guess I'll do my picks now. Honestly, I'm going to name 3 cars. I don't know who's going to win the race, but I'm going to name 3 cars that I think will do well, and then hopefully they will all fall on the podium. The 27, like we said, Roman DeAngelis, Sorensen, James, Turner, right? Stacked lineup. Next on the list, I got to scroll down and actually remember the number. Where are they? Where are they at? My new favorite team, the 80. AO Racing, Seb Priaulx, Jeanette, Ticknell. I love Mazda. Third, honestly, might be Turner, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. Turner just seems to always just straight up get unlucky.
That's true. Yeah,
that's it. That's why it makes it really hard to pick them. I'm probably gonna go with right. Honestly, I'm gonna go with right.
Go with your heart, Jeb. Go with your heart. Don't go with your head. Your head means nothing here. It's GTD.
No, I'm picking right.
You're picking right?
Yeah, because my heart let me... I picked the Mazda for 3 years.
Yeah, good point. So you're used to being disappointed then?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
You know what race I didn't pick the Mazda for? Their final race where they won it.
Of course. That's just peak.
That's why my name is not on that car.
Oh, like... That's rough. That's rough. Yeah. So you went with the right motorsports, the number 16 then?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. I'm gonna go with I reckon the Iron Dames are gonna be one of the teams to beat. So that's Bovey, Frey, Gatting, and Dorian Pin. I reckon they're gonna be a terrifying prospect. I'm also going to go the number 91 Kelly Moss Road and Race because I like Julian Andlauer and I like Jackson Evans, and Kay Van Berlo and Adrian Metney I guess are fine. And the last car, I'm actually going to go right back to the very top. Paul Miller Racing, Corey Lewis, Maxime Martin, Brian Sellers, Madison Snow. That is a car that I think will fly under the radar, and I wouldn't surprise to see them pop up at the top of the list at the end of the race. So there are my 3 predictions. But as we've made mention many times, it is GTD. You could literally, and people have fired up a random number generator and just gone based off that and have won the prediction contest because of it. So it literally anything could happen in GTD. It is just an absolute mess in the best way possible. Guys, we're getting very close to the end here. Brief mention of Michelin Pilot Challenge, because I know that Kris has been aching to talk about it the whole time. Kris, you're allowed to tell us 3 interesting things about Michelin Pilot Challenge, because we've already been running for over 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I can get through this really quick.
Go.
Right, so, Roar Weekend, we got actual racing going on. VP Racing Challenge, we got 2 45-minute races, LMP3 and GT4s. We got a bunch of IMSA crossover. Junior 3 Racing is racing. They're going to be in Sebring for main IMSA. Milner Motorsports, their ELMS LMP2 team. Kelly Moss with 2 cars, Sean Creech, MLT, JDC Motorsports, US Restronics. They got Grand Sport, which is the GT4s. Turner's in there. Kelly Moss is also in there. Murillo, Canadian Pride. Rebel Rock with the Camaros. Carbon with Paragon Racing. They raced GT3s last year, but now they're not. And then also Multimatic Motorsports with the Ford CEO Racing with Jim Farley. Now for Michelin Pilot Challenge, 43 total entries in this. Let me take a look. Basically, your typical GT4 stars. Some double duty Turner's Motorsports in this. Neil Verhagen. That's a name that sticks out to me. He was a Red Bull Junior driver. He's racing the BMW. RS1, big stalwarts. TR3 Racing is in this. Lone Star Racing is making the IMSA comeback. Carbon, Ford GT4s, Camaros. Team TGM is also in this. Crucial Motorsports is making the debut for the McLaren Artura GT4. Right, yep, that'll be the debut for that car. Then we got TCR with 12 entries in TCR. The Brian Herta Autosport Criminal Syndicate continues with 3 cars. Then you got LA Honda World Racing, JDC Miller Motorsports. The Alfa Romeo is back.
Yeah.
And then the Audi is still there with Road Shagger Racing. And then you got the Honda of America Racing Team, which is basically the people who work on that car work in the Honda plants, which is very cool. So that's your rundown. VP Racing Challenge this weekend. At the time of this recording, Roar Weekend's both Saturday and Sunday. Michelin Pilot Challenge the Friday before the Rolex. And also Mazda MX-5 Cup. We only need to go through the drivers because the racing is always good. You'll be entertained anyway. Thursday and Friday of Rolex Weekend.
You can take a breath now, Kris. That was very well done.
There we go.
I do want to just point out as well, I've just had a quick look at the NPC entry list, trying to just have a look for some interesting names. I did see that an Australian driver is on the list that really surprised me. I'm just trying to find his name here. Quite a few drivers are doing double duty here as well. The Plums are doing double duty that I've noticed. There's also Owen Trinkler running in NPC and also the main race. Spencer Pompelli is in both cars, as well as Jerome Blakemolen, which is pretty cool. But I do want to just take a moment to point out in the number 33 Brian Herter Motorsport with Curb Agajajan, which I always get wrong. Robert Wickens is going to be back behind the wheel in that car, which is, if you haven't heard of Robert Wickens, it was an IndyCar driver who ended up getting paralyzed from the waist down after a crash. And he's slowly been rehabilitating himself, and last year won a race in TCR, behind the wheel of a modified car. So it's so cool to see him back behind the wheel and winning races. So yeah, happy days.
Yeah, it just, yeah, like I said, like 24 cars in VP Racing Challenge, 43 in Michelin Pilot Challenge, and the Mazdas just provide you an excellent race no matter what happens. So very interesting weekend ahead. We got both. And obviously qualifying, I can't forget that, for the Rolex 24 Sunday on Roar weekend. So
which would be the 22nd.
Right. Like a full week.
Yeah.
Before the checkered flag.
It's going to be crazy. So we are almost at the very end here. Finally, guys, where in the God's name above are we going to be able to watch this? If you're outside of the US, all of the Rolex sessions will be on IMSA TV. But if you're in the US and also North America, where should you watch this? Where should you look?
So I believe it's only the US and North America that's subject to the GeoBlock. So if you live in the US, the IMSA website with the event, when you go to the Rolex 24 event details, they'll have the actual TV times. I know the first hour and last hour will be on main NBC, and the rest, any coverage, will be on USA. And then obviously full round-the-clock coverage will be on Peacock. And then for international viewers, most of you will be fine with just IMSA TV, unless you live in the Baltics, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and I believe Netherlands, as that will be geo-blocked, I believe, because of the Viaplay getting the rights there. So just a heads up.
And in Canada, is that the same as well?
IMSA TV is not geo-blocked in Canada, so I'll be watching it 24/7, ad-free, minus whatever the IMSA radio does.
Gross.
Until my internet dies.
How dare you? How dare you be able to watch all of it? Yeah, and the rest of the world also on IMSA TV. Guys, what about getting involved around the sub? Of course, we'll have our fantasy endurance competition run by MW Clarkson, so get on top of that. Jeb, I'm seeing some discussion in the live chat saying that you have some sort of fantasy prediction contest?
Yeah, I have Fantasy Michelin Pilot Challenge because it's the greatest racing series on the planet. I'm going to be honest, though, I only have room for maybe one or two more people because, A, I get sick of extending the spreadsheet, and also I literally am running out of cars to pick. Because we did it in a draft style. So you get 3 cars you keep for the year. So it's real slim pickings, but...
So you might get lucky if you want to jump in on that one. Of course, get in the r/IMSA Racing Race Threads. Get in the WC Discord as well, which will have links to either in the race threads or in we're actually a public server now, so you can actually search r/WEC on Discord and find us. We are the one with the WC logo, the subreddit r/WC logo as our header, icon. And our header image changes because we're cool like that. There'll be people in voice chat. There'll be probably a scratch pad going, so like notes going on throughout the race. There'll be people in the live thread. We've had teams in the past to drop into our live threads. We had Chip Ganassi Racing tweet at us once, which was terrifying. We had Yoda Sport tweet at us last year, which was also terrifying. So there's plenty going on, and yeah, it'll be a good fun time. Guys, any final things you want to mention before we wrap up on our first podcast for 2023?
This is going to be a big year.
It's going to be a big year indeed. 61
cars, and obviously with a robust support lineup. Here I am, spoiling the party. If you can't wait for racing action, Formula E is also that weekend, which is good. And then there's like something called the Bahrain Pro-Am 1000 that's on the Saturday before the Rolex.
I saw that got cancelled. That got cancelled today.
It got canceled today. Oh wow! I'm not
nobody's showing up
anymore.
Nobody's showing up for a Pro-Am race in Bahrain the day before the Rolex.
Yeah,
that's very fair. So yeah, it's basically I looked up the Formula E sessions do not clash with IMSA at all. So if you're also an open wheel fan, it's a robust racing weekend for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, It'll be Daytona. There's Daytona. It kicks off the year. It's going to kick off the new era of top-class sports car racing, a era we've been waiting for with bated breath for almost, 6-7 years now. So I'm very excited, and I can't wait to watch some more racing with you. And by the way, thank you to all the people who have been listening to us over the course of the 8 years. I know that we've not had as much content over the last 6 months or so. Life changed for a lot of us in 2022 in some very big ways, and it made things very difficult. But we're looking at how we can make Endurance Chat fit into our lives in a way that's fun and in a way that's easy. And I hope that you stick with us for the ride, because I'm excited to see what happens next. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Kris, for being on board.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Josh, for joining us on your first go. I hope we hear from you again, and I can't wait to do a marshalling podcast with you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I've been loving it.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. I've been Michael Zalavari. I hope you enjoy the Rolex 24. Thanks all from us. Peace out.